Good evening, everyone. The regular meeting for the City Commission for Tuesday, August 26th will come to order. Please join me in silencing your cell phone. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine.
Here.
Commissioner McGurk.
Here.
Commissioner Ashley.
Here.
Vice Mayor Martin. Here. Mayor Cleveland.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And now Samantha Bergeron, our Director of Economic Development, will lead us in the invocation. So please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow your heads. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measures of health we need to fulfill our callings and sustenance, and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you and the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so, from your boundless and gracious nature. Amen.
And now 14-year-old Clover Randall will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. She's a rising freshman at New Smyrna High. She is in advanced classes. She is in the Criminal Justice Academy and plans on becoming a lawyer or joining the Air Force or working as a CIA agent. She's on the cross-country team. We're delighted to have Clover with us tonight. Clover, come forward and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good job. And nice job, Mom, Tara Randall, raising a wonderful daughter. Mr. Cowper, any changes, sir, to the published agenda?
Yes, sir. Just a few things that I wanted to mention that have changed since the agenda was originally published. On the consent agenda, items 7B and 7C have been moved to the administrative item/new business portion of the agenda. They will be items 8C and 8D. Item 8C on the originally published agenda has been removed from the agenda. Also, please note that item 8B, you've received revised information on that. And on item, what was 7C and is now 8C, you've received some revised information on that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate those changes.
You may have followed all of that.
I'll work my way through
Yes,
that.
sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And so on to announcements and presentations. I know that you may think that the word of the day is the announcement that Travis Kelce has engaged, but the real story of the day is Senator Tom Wright is with us this evening. So good evening, Senator. I'd like to invite the senator to the podium along with the commission to receive an announcement and a check from the state.
Thank you, sir. I didn't know I was a Swiftie, but apparently I am, huh?
You're the guy.
Me and her are close. So anyway, I brought you a check. I want to remind you of what it's for. How's that? It's not for raises. Sorry about that, guys. No raises. So today the city is receiving a check from state funds to help move forward the critical stormwater improvements that will protect homes, strengthen the historic community. For far too long, families have here faced repeated flooding during hurricanes and heavy rains. The project is about changing that reality, bringing peace of mind to residents, protecting property, and strengthening one of the most historic communities in New Smyrna Beach. This investment demonstrates what the local leadership and state support can do when they come together. I want to thank the city of New Smyrna Beach for making this project a priority and for your unwavering dedication to your residents. So tonight, we're here to provide you with a check for the historic West Side neighborhood in the amount of $1 million.
Thank you very much, sir. And now the commission will go down and receive.
We're going to need some help here, sir. How are you?
And thank you so much. And thank you for those hills here.
The check we've just received will help the city's project with the historic West Side flood water management system that the city manager, the city engineer, Kyle Fegley, are diligently working to resolve. So it's a big step. And for Senator Wright, you can come back anytime with those big checks. We appreciate that. At this time, I'd like to invite the members of the Economic Development Task Force to the podium so we may express our gratitude for their dedication and service to the board.
And we don't have a check, sorry.
You should have gone first.
It's hard to make come in after that, isn't it?
I'm going to read to you, Jess.
You are?
Yeah. Dear Economic Development Task Force, on behalf of the City of New Smyrna Beach, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for your dedicated service as a member of the Economic Development Task Force. Your time, your expertise, and commitment have been invaluable in advancing our mission to strengthen the local economy and support our business community. Your contributions to the recent business survey initiative were especially impactful. By helping to shape and review the survey, you ensured that we gathered meaningful insights for our local businesses. These findings are already proving essential in guiding our strategic future in identifying opportunities to better serve our community. Your thoughtful perspective and active participation enriched our discussions and helped us move forward with clarity and purpose. We truly appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge and invest in building a stronger economic future for the city of New Smyrna Beach. Thank you again for your service and commitment. We look forward to continuing this important work together, and I've signed it as your mayor. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I'm gonna hold on to this. Picture. Sure. Yeah. Commission, let's all take a picture.
Looks like Phil Bambi. I didn't wear a suit for nothing. You gonna put this on my wife to take the picture? Oh my God. She's good, she can do it. Come on, babe.
She's going to Photoshop you out anyway, John.
A very cohesive group here. And now the senior engineer, our city engineer, Kyle Fegley, will present a current stormwater and dredging project update. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, I do have a PowerPoint to assist with this. Okay, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm going to update you on a few of our projects. We have been making steady progress, as well as some of the dredging activities that are being performed in the city. I'm going to start with our Stormwater Master Plan Phase 1, which primarily consists of data gathering. As you can see, it includes over 750 ERP, environmental resource permits, from the St. John's Water Management District. And a lot of that information is accompanied with other documentation. So when we download that, it includes geotechnical evaluation, it includes surveys, stormwater calculations. So it's, as you can see by the 692 gigabytes, it's a lot of information. This information, just in this phase, has actually already helped us. We get inquiries from, we just got a couple this week from private subdivisions, and we're able just to click on this shape file, and it pulls up all this information, and it can tell us where the outfall structure is. It shows us a schematic of the layout for all the infrastructure. It's really neat. It's just really high tech. I don't know of any other community that has that at this point in time. So I'm just real excited about wrapping this phase up and going into to Phase 2. This is some of the information we've received just from LIDAR, soils characteristics, all goes into the development of this particular study. We also had, we got input from the public, which is very important to have that historical data and input, because that'll help us calibrate the model as we move forward. And we develop our GWIS system, and that's a Geographical Watershed Information System. So we're going to set up that model for all the citywide basins. And this is going to be used in the Phase 2 modeling, which gets into more detail. So this whole study looks at more than just the city limits. We have about 41 square miles within the city, but the basins that affect us actually is more like 120. So it's 3 times the size of the city impacts the influence, what we see as far as contributing basins to the city. And this is our technical memorandum. We are wrapping up our comments at this point in time to the consultant. We plan on being done in about 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll finalize Phase 1. Because as you probably recall, or maybe aware, we applied for and received a Transform 386, which is a CDBG grant from Volusia County for the tune of $800,000, which will cover the entire scope of work for Phase 2. And matter of fact, in working with the county, I was on the selection committee for the particular firm that's going to conduct Phase 2. They have been selected, and county staff plans on awarding that and taking it to the county council in October of this year. So with a 1 year to 15-month time frame, we can expect to receive the final product probably at the end of 2026, early 2027. All right, getting into capital improvement projects. This is a great segue from the senator. If he could come up here about 5 or 6 more times, we'd have enough money to start this project. But very appreciative of the $1 million that he gave us. Basically, you can see the project boundaries are on the right-hand side is US 1, State Road 44. Then you go up Wallace Road, and Enterprise is on the top of the screen, or the north side. Actually, we've had several public meetings, so there are some infrastructure improvements north of that red line, based on input I've got for residents, up by like Midway and Cherry Street, if you're familiar with that area. So we are putting some drainage infrastructure in those rights of way as well. What we plan on doing with that project is taking this to, when the application is opened up for Hurricane Milton, CDBG fund, Transform 386. It's not open yet for public projects, just like we did for Ian and got money for Corbin Park. We're going to do that for historic West Side and have confidence we'll get funded as well. So that's going to open up in September, October. So hopefully we can move forward with this project in 2026. These are just some of the streets that Robertsville that have severe flooding. So this is just kind of the focal points of this particular project, what we intend on doing with the flood control, et cetera. So Corbin Park, this project is, again, this is much further along. We actually have our JPA agreement from the county in the tune of $6 million. So it covers the majority of costs. It's kind of hard to see, but the boundaries that on the top, that's State Road 44. On the east side is Walker Drive, which follows Turnbull Creek south. And then it goes all the way down to, I think Magnolia Drive is the last east-west street in the Corbin Park subdivision, and basically goes up Bolton, and Bolton turns a little bit in Hidden Pines Boulevard, but basically goes straight up to 44. So that'll really facilitate some of the flooding issues we've had in this neighborhood. And again, this being managed by the county, because once you get a CDBG grant, this is turned over to county staff. So they'll be handling all the construction management. And their schedule at this point in time is to put this project out to bid in October. They're just working out some of the CDBG environmental issues. And then once they go out to bid, potentially award it in December of this year, and start construction early 2026 in the spring of 2026. So this is just starting to get some momentum recently. All right, these are just some of the sections and key roadways that will receive some of the infrastructure improvements. The North Atlantic Drainage Improvement Project, this project is going amazingly well, almost too well. We haven't had really any major issues with the project. It started in June 2nd, so September 2nd is about, 90 days? So we're almost 90 days in on a 365-day contract without any issues. At this point in time, they're really working on the 10-inch water main. We have a cost share agreement with NSBU. As we do with a lot of our projects now, we share with them what we're doing, so that way they can do some improvements. They're hardening their electrical grid, for instance, in this area. They're upgrading the water main, and that 10-inch water main has to be relocated so we can abandon the existing water main, because that aligns perfectly with our exfiltration system. So that's what they're focusing on now. One thing I'll point out real quick is you can see the construction contract amount is $1,570,000. It's almost $1.6 million, right? Well, look at the DEP grants. We got $1,675,000. So don't tell the contractor we got more grant money than we do contract money. That's an unusual and a good position to be in. So there's a traditional grant and there's a resiliency grant, both for $837,500. So fiscally, we're in good shape with this project. Again, this is the water main improvements. That's the 10-inch main. There's a 6-inch, some gate valves for a fire hydrant connection. More work on the water main. And that's just flushing the water main. That's not a drainage problem. So they have to flush it and clear it and get Department of Health approval, and then do all the utility connections. They're getting all new services and new meters before we start the drainage improvements. They plan on finishing that this week. So next week we may see some of the stormwater improvements moving forward. All right, we'll get into the dredging projects. The first one is the Turnbull Bay dredging south of State Road 44. This project is complete. We removed approximately 8,500 cubic yards of mud, silt, debris, and to help the conveyance of this particular canal system. And that doesn't include some of the organic or alluvial material that we've removed as well to help assist with this widening of the canal system. We've actually received all the as-built drawings, and we cleared it through USDA, which had a EWP, like Emergency Waterway Program grant. And that was for the $1,227,000 out of the $1,600,000 was covered by USDA grant. Again, this is just a geographical representation for those in the audience. It's about 6,100 feet, so it goes from that road to the north. On top of the slide is, again, State Road 44, and it goes all the way down to about Old Mission. So, and it is pretty well cleared. I actually had mud on my shoes. I actually went in a John boat, went through the whole system, so I did make sure it was cleared. Typical removal of about 2 feet of the material. It was overgrown. I just threw this in because it's a water quality, it's a turbidity barrier, so we have to follow, DEP and core guidelines. And this is just showing the as-builts. So this verifies the depth of the canal system, and they actually did construct the depth and the width in accordance with the drawings. I just threw this in because I didn't want this guy's job. This poor guy is walking in muck and dirt and everything, and you see the guys in there, they were hand dredging, and it's kind of interesting. I asked the guys, what do you fear most? Alligators, snapping turtles, what's out there? Snakes, venomous snakes? Nope. Needles. Needles scare us the most out here because we can't really avoid those when we get them. So, thank goodness I have an office. But here again, some of the equipment to remove material. They had actually watertight dump trucks, so there was no debris or anything on the roadways. And this is basically what we're trying to achieve. Nice, clean, clear cross-section. So that's what the objective is of the whole grant. Turnbull Creek North dredging. This project is about 90% done. This was $500,000 actually funded through our stormwater utility account. And the north section is actually Jungle Road north to the NSB utility corridor, the main utility corridor, which is also our pedestrian trail system. So that's the section that was focused on for this particular dredging. And again, that's a little hard to read, but that's a location. This work is 90% done with just some removal of debris. So all that material is all gone. Basically, it's all cleared out. So they're going to wrap this project up in the next week or two, and then mobilize to a different location within the city. Just some more pictures of the clear canal. And this is the debris pile. One thing while I'm thinking about it, our Public Works Director had a great idea. This material is the city's, right? So we can't sell it, we can use it, we can stabilize the shoulders of the roadway, etc. But why not use it for sandbags? Why not repurpose this material? So this guy right here decided that let's try it. We got approval through the agencies, so now we can repurpose it and use it for sandbags. And what a great idea. Wish I would have thought of it. Okay, Old Menorcan Pond. This pond was just in bad shape. It needed restoration. It was just overgrown. You didn't even know where the outfall structure was. So we've gone in, and this work is already 100% done. Cleared. There's the head wall. There is it cleared. You can actually see the house and their retaining wall in the back. This was about $188,000 and change, and covered entirely by the DEM grant. So no out-of-pocket expenses. Pine Island and Aqua Court dredging. We are excited to start this project. We actually just received the Army Corps of Engineer approval. We have been coordinating with the contractor. We have the contract already signed and ready to go. The contractor at this point in time is just getting some temporary construction access easements from the property owners to get to the sections of the canal they need to get their equipment in. So they plan on mobilizing, I think in the next week or two, they'll actually mobilize and start start dredging. So you'll see some activity out there. Maybe not the best slide. You can see the red lines. That's the dredge area off of Wayne Avenue. Come into Pine Island, a little bit to the left, to the west, and it goes all the way around and all the way around Aqua Court. So that project is funded through ARPA and DEM funds. So again, a lot of grant money used to the benefit of the community. The Glencoe Geiger Cemetery Canal System, this is probably the longest run of our infrastructure that we're going to repair. Basically, this is just a maintenance. We had severe erosion and washout on the north section of the canal to the point where it jeopardized, this is the main transmission poles for the city. And also, we had some of the trail actually collapse. So we are going to stabilize and harden that entire run, 1.24 miles of that canal, the slope. And we are going to widen a section of the canal between Otter Boulevard and Colony Park Road as well, because it kind of necks down. So they're going to widen that, and there's a section around that pond you see on the far right-hand side. It's just, people call it Otter Pond, but that discharges right into Turnbull Creek. That's that body of water that snakes up there. So that had some silt and debris washed in after the storms of 2024. So they're also going to dredge that as well. We've also got approval through DEM on the scope of work, and the cost to do that was all submitted based on the hardening material we're going to use. So this work is going to start in October, November as well. Okay, the last section of canal system that's supported by the DEM grant. This is like, I think, $418,000. That's a section of Gabordi Canal east of US 1. And it's really just to restore the cross section of it's a really deep canal, but as you can see, the silt buildup is really at the mouth where it meets the river, and all that material is going to be removed. This is currently in for Army Corps of Engineers permitting. They have some environmental impact concerns. We have to do a benthic survey, and our biologist is working on that, and we hope to close that out soon. And the contractor is going to mobilize from Pine Island to this immediately when they're done with Pine Island in about 4 to 5 months. All right, that's my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. Any questions for our chief engineer? Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you very much. One of the champions of the elaborate Venetian irrigation system that we have is Donna Atherton, who serves on our Turnbull committee. I'd like to offer up a moment of silence. Her husband, Marlon, has passed unexpectedly this past week, so if you don't mind, just a moment of silence to think about Donna and her family. Amen. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, we're anxious for your report, sir.
Yes, sir, and Mr. Mayor, several things I wanted to report on this evening. As you are all aware, we have been hard at it on developing the 2026 budget. Wanted to remind everybody that we will be having the first official public hearing for the budget on Wednesday, September the 10th in these chambers beginning at 5:30. And then we'll have a second public hearing on September 23rd. That will be during the regular commission meeting scheduled on the 23rd. Also wanted to remind everybody that on Thursday, September 11th, at the Brannan Center from 5:30 to 7, FDOT will be hosting an open house where they'll be showing the plans for the Highway 44 improvements project. This involves resurfacing 44 from I-95 eastward to about South Walker Drive. So that'll include resurfacing and some turn lane improvements and some new sidewalks and other things. So if you're interested in that project, you can come on Thursday the 11th to find out more information on that. I did attend the Florida League of Cities conference recently. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the sessions that I thought were particularly interesting, and that everybody in Florida seems to be dealing with these same issues, so we're not alone. Citizen communication and media relations, artificial intelligence applications, Florida Doge, and e-bikes were some of the principal topics that I thought had particular application to things that we're dealing with. Concerning our ongoing union negotiations with police and fire, just reporting that those union negotiations are continuing, have meetings scheduled with both unions next week to continue those discussions. I wanted also, if I may, just to thank everybody involved in acquiring the $1 million grant from the state. I appreciate the senator coming and presenting that check this evening. That's a lot of work by a lot of people, our engineering staff developing that project. And it is a big project in a very underserved community that needs stormwater infrastructure. This will be a project that I'm guessing is going to be pushing 7-8 million, probably more than that when all is said and done. So this is a big deal to get this money, and thanks to everybody involved in that. Mayor, thank you also. I think the push in Tallahassee went a very long way to securing that money. That was a trip well worth it. Also, not something I usually do, but I did want to read this letter to you. I received from Mark Billings, the chair of the Charter Review Committee. He forwarded me this letter and said he couldn't be here this evening, but wanted it put into the record. So if you'll indulge me, I just wanted to read this to you. The purpose of the letter today is to share my perspective as a committee chair on the decision of the council. The City Commission held on August 12th to remove the proposal from the commission agenda without discussion or vote, neither for approval or rejection. City Commission decided to conduct a charter review and then appointed 11 members of our community across all 4 zones to serve the role as members of the Charter Review Committee. I was appointed to the committee by Zone 3 Commissioner Jason McGuirk. My colleagues on the committee chose me to serve as the committee chair, which I was honored to do. We voted to have an early election and bring this issue to the public now. Please reconsider your decision. Our committee worked with zeal and esprit de corps to thoughtfully sort through key topics which exist in our current charter. During each meeting, we deliberately paused to intently hear the comments of the general public that attended to express his or her point of view. We took these comments into account as we deliberated on each item that was presented to our City Commission. Of important note, each item that was presented was recommended by an overwhelming majority of our committee members. As such, I feel a duty to share with you that it seems the most appropriate course of action is for the wonderful residents of our great city to have an opportunity to decide at the voting polls as to the utility and value of each of the 7 proposed edits the committee submitted for your consideration. It is reasonable for an elected official to agree and or disagree with the content of the changes. However, it seems the real question here is if you asked us to perform the work now, why not complete the task by allowing the voters to decide now? My preference would be to share the contents of this letter during public comments at the next commission. However, I'll be unavailable. Sincerely, Mark Billings. So I did tell Mark that I would provide this letter to you, and so there you have it. And that is my report, sir.
Thank you for your report, sir. Mr. Ashley?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on Mark's letter to all of us. Last time I voted to postpone the vote on the charter, and after having listened to what Mark had to say, I didn't realize, and maybe it came across as a little unconcerned about the effort that the Charter Committee had put forth. And I am thinking now about the effort that they did put forth. And I'm thinking maybe now we should possibly reconsider and maybe see if we can talk about bringing that vote closer like we had talked about before. And to be very honest with you, one of the other things that happened during the course of the Charter Committee, and it was something that I observed and evaluated on my own, and that was the wording in the preamble. And I brought it up once, and it really never came to an active discussion on the Charter Committee. And as I read through the preamble, it seemed to me to be outdated, maybe full of words that in current circumstances are a little bit loaded. And I thought to myself, this preamble would have been fine in the 70s, but going forward, and based on the direction from our new city manager, which is to create a city much more customer service oriented, much more merit-based, kind of up to date with the times of efficiency, professionalism. As I looked at that old preamble, I thought, you know what, there's a way to rewrite that where the well-being of the city is in the forefront of what is said in the preamble, along with the idea that everybody, all citizens, are included in the benefit of the city charter. And what I mean by that is that the city charter should be the document that brings us forward from today onward, and any kind of lingering, let's say, outdated terms should be eliminated from and I'm just focusing on the preamble because that kind of sets the tone for the whole document. So what I did is on my own, I just rewrote it. And I haven't submitted it to anybody, except I did talk about it with Carrie. And number one, if we do reconsider and bring forward the vote to this November for a change in the city charter, I would like to add and submit to the commission a new preamble to go along with the 7 items that the city charter committee had proposed. And the reason I'm doing this is because I got to thinking about ballot fatigue in November of 26. And the reason I didn't bring up the preamble before is because I thought, well, if it's on the ballot in November 26, and we add one more thing, and especially if it's a preamble, it's going to be pretty big, that might be too much for the voters to handle. And I figured the consideration of the charter wouldn't get its due if the preamble was attached to that stuff in November of 26. So therefore, I said to myself, well, I know that maybe the turnout won't be as big in November of 25, but at least it will only be what the city charter committee has done, what the work they have done. And I don't mind, if you guys do agree, attaching a new preamble to those 7 items.
Yes, let's do it. Let's unpack that for a second. There's lots to talk about. Is there a motion that we could at least start with to have it potentially second, and then have an open discussion.
I move that we,
So stated, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think I've heard you say you'd like to reconsider. City Attorney, you might want to help me with how this might go. If your motion is to reconsider the vote, that's one thing to reconsider, but is it appropriate for the motion to be, I move that the vote be taken in, an early vote be taken in 25, or do we need to do 2 steps or 1 step? Reconsider and then vote for 26 or 25, or is it okay in one motion?
I would recommend let's do them separately.
Okay.
here.
Very good. So motion to reconsider?
Well, let me just discuss it a little bit further. I would move that we add the preamble change to the 7 items. That's number 1. We move to do that. Second motion would be to reconsider the vote this year. That's how I would put it.
Okay. Those are 2 motions. Which one do I need first?
I would recommend let's flip them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And first determine whether or not this is,
So-
I would have to bring back ordinances and such.
Got it. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to reconsider the decision to put the vote in 2026. Is there a second?
I second.
You made the
I
motion.
made the motion,
You made the motion. Is there a second?
I don't think I can because I was the lone vote.
Yeah, but you can second. You can't make the motion.
I can second them.
Yep.
I'll second
All right, a motion and a second, and now we've got some discussion. So let's have at it. Commissioner Martin.
Well, there's 2 different issues here. So are we discussing only whether to reconsider the special election? And nobody has yet to explain to me the urgency behind doing that. The current charter has been functioning quite well. A special election in November will have the smallest possible turnout of any election, smaller even than primaries in the midterms. So without any sense of urgency, I am getting a lot of feedback from my constituents. I still think we are better served by having it on the November 26th ballot.
Any other, Commissioner
so
Ashley?
I thought about that, and to me, urgency isn't the issue. The issue is not urgency. The issue is attention to what the city charter has presented and what they have recommended to change. And so I think that more, even though it's a smaller turnout, more attention can be devoted to the actual items that we want the public to vote on. If it's alone, if it's coupled with a huge general election stuff, that I just think that it wouldn't get a fair shot. No matter how many people are voting.
Well, I would get my...
So wait a minute, we're just going to do this parliamentary-wise. Anybody else have an opinion before we go back to the second time? Nothing from McGurk or Perrine?
The 2 reasons I voted the way I did and was the only lone vote to have an early special election this November was exactly what Commissioner Ashley said. We can focus on only those items because they're complicated in some degree. Some of them, it's going to be probably, and my guess from the public, who doesn't like arts, we're going to vote yes for that, But there's some they really need to think about, research, consider. We've got, 31,000, 32,000 constituents. And how many will show up for that? Probably not as many as a governor or a president's race. But the ones that do show up are going to really be focused and honed in on the charter changes because that is the rules to our city. And they're very important. And they really need to research that. And we really want them to show up for that. The second reason I had was because of the city clerk. And I don't want to wait another year for our city clerk's position to report to us. I would like her to report immediately to Mr. Cowper for the reasons I stood, and I'm not going to restate those. We know what those are. Some of those were done in shade. But those are two very, very important reasons for me, and I voted yes for an early special election for those two reasons, and I don't think I can do anything other than restate why I was the only one that voted that way.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. McGurk.
So, well, I can agree that the ballot is going to be long in November 26th. When the people of the state agreed to have constitutional amendments, that opened the floodgates for very long and sometimes complicating ballots. So I understand Commissioner Ashley's opinion on why the charter amendments or potential charter changes can get lost in a long ballot. People have voter fatigue. That's not a theory, that's a fact. They're valid arguments. My concern and the reason I voted no for a special election was to spare the cost. I still feel that way. However, I'm listening to the commission, and I may be willing to change that upon hearing some compelling opinions on why we should.
I'll go last, and then we'll go for the second round. I've listened to our newest member and not weighed down with all the politics of the past, relatively new to the dais, fresh set of eyes, and so I value that, Brian's perspective. There are two things that occur to me. Certainly, number one in my mind is the balance point of the instability of where we're going to have the city clerk report to and how that must feel. Continuing with the commission or the proposal to do what most other cities in the county do and make that a reportable position to the manager. And for another 18 months, that might be painful for you. The second is that while the expense of this to the city is $48,000 or $50,000, the expense to the citizenry of an election that is decided in a primary, any candidate getting over 50% of the vote has to still continue to the general election after receiving a majority of the vote. We remain the only city in the county and the county elections themselves to do it in this manner. And so the tens of thousands of dollars that get spent in time and effort by the citizenry and campaigning and talking and venues and what have you, when statistically, as reported by the supervisor of elections, no one who won the primary was defeated in the general election. So all of that time and effort is down the tubes, both statistically and practically, and it's the citizenry's effort that makes that all happen. And so the wisdom of many other cities was cut it off at that point. Deferring that till 2028, going through the 26 election, where at least 3 members from will compete for a position up here, seems wasteful. And so that gets my attention. Any second timers? Commissioner Martin.
Now, I realize most of you here were not around when we did the 2020 charter. And I was on the Charter Review Board. And first of all, we were very specific about choosing 2026. And it was to be the The review committee was to happen in 2026, specifically so any review would fall with a general election. And what you're doing on many of these things is in fact negating the work that the 2020 Charter Review Board did. And so all the 11 of us from then might feel somewhat affronted. For example, we worked quite a while on that preamble. It was done in 2020, and it was done by highly respected members of our community as part of the Charter Review Board. So I believe in a calm, quiet, even though it was during COVID, but we did have extended meetings. We had reasonable conversation. We thought about this and worked on it for months. And with those considerations, we came up with the items that many don't like. And so, yes, you may say we are disparaging somehow the work of the current review committee, but let me assure you, by making these changes, you are disparaging the work of the prior Charter Review Committee. And I think that is also worthy of consideration. And it's not that any of these changes would go away. They wouldn't vanish this year. They can be put on the ballot in 2026, at least respecting some small modicum of the work that the Charter Review Committee did in 2020.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go again.
I have a question for legal, just from Commissioner Martin's response, because she had some good points. What does it say in the legal side about us being able to redo this charter review again? Can you read that wording exactly? Because it was stated when we actually voted to make these changes, and kind of tell us what that legal wording was from the changes we decided versus the ones that 2020, I believe she said did, and why.
So I'm not sure I exactly understand, but so each ordinance, each one,
No,
or just the process
the
for doing
process
it in
of
25?
How we can, and the reasons that we can do, there was verbiage that we could basically do it.
Right, so there's a Florida state statute that says at any time a commission or community could petition, or the commission can present by ordinance these types of measures for consideration by the public. So I think the language you're referring to is that statutory language that says either by ordinance or by petition, this can happen at any time.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Commissioner McGurk.
So the point of having a look again at the charter review 5 years after the one we just had, we're not diminishing the work that charter review committee did. We specifically stated we'd have another one in 5 years to evaluate exactly the changes that were made and determine then if whether or not those were good changes. The charter is not something that we should change often and continuously. However, it is also something that it is a working document that will reflect the goals of the city over decades. So, and that is why we called the charter review specifically to be 5 years later, because we were going to evaluate the decisions that were made.
So the charter language actually says appoint a charter review committee in 2026. So there was, back in the end of 24, there was a desire to move into 2025. And so we established the committee, we hired the facilitator. So I just want to make sure you're crystal clear on what the charter language says versus how we got to where we are.
Maybe I'm not being clear with what I'm trying to say. I
Okay.
thought that Commissioner Martin said that she stated her opinion on the charter and why not to make changes to it. She says we're, taking away from the past charter review committee from 5 years ago, 2021. And we specifically had the charter 5 years later because it had been, what was it, close to 15 years before we had a previous charter review? 10, 15 years. So the point I'm making is we specifically wanted a charter review committee in a fair amount of time afterwards to evaluate any changes that were made. So the point I'm making is we're not taking away from what the Charter Review Committee and the work they did from 5 years ago. I have a different recollection and understanding, and since I was on the commission, I have a pretty good reason why we moved forward with wanting another one approximately 5 years later. So I understand what you're saying, but that doesn't have anything to do with Commissioner Martin's point that we're somehow taking away from what the Charter Review Committee, the work they did 5 years ago. We wanted to evaluate that work after a certain amount of time. And that's all I'm saying.
Right, and that's my recollection too, is they did this complete overhaul and they wanted to see, okay, let's check it. Let's not wait a long time to see if this is working. Let's check in.
That's correct, 100%. So I just wanted to make clear, because Commissioner Martin said we were diminishing what the previous Charter Review Committee did, and that was, it was fully intended to review the significant changes that were made roughly 5 years later, so we can determine how those are working out, because they were many significant changes. So it seems to me that there is support to have a special election on the dais. Reading the tea leaves here, I think that there seems to be that support. My question is, would that be this year or early next year? When would that special election actually happen?
So previously I'd worked with the supervisor of elections with the dates for November. So I would need to check in with her again on what those dates could be, but I can, depending on what you all decide, I could get them, the ordinances are drafted, so they could be on the next agenda, and then it would be up to the supervisor of elections to decide. Previously the direction was 90 days, and then she had given us some flexibility there, so I don't know how much flexibility she has. I could check in on that.
Okay, thank you. That was all I had, Mayor.
All right, second time for Commissioner Ashley.
Yeah, I just want to respond to you, Commissioner Martin. My thoughts and recommendations are no way saying that the old one was bad. I just think that it's time to just add some new and fresh blood, let's say, to the situation. That's all. No, every effort that has happened before, I commend. It's there's just no question about everybody being sincere and coming up with the final product that everybody's happy with. I just think that the charter review is also revised. So when you review something and you feel a need for a change, and I did, so that's what I'm doing. And I also think, I thought about the cost, and number one, I think we have an absolutely superb city manager that is managing the budget just tremendously, and I think that number one, the cost is already budgeted, and the 50,000 or so is already there if we need to use it. And secondly, I agree with Fred. I think that the further campaigning, the time and effort from the primary to a final election, none of that would have to be expended. Your money, time, effort, anything like that. And as Fred said, statistically proven that whoever wins the primary wins the general election. I mean, so why go through it? Anyway, that's...
We've got the second or third time through, but a point of personal privilege. We happen to have the vice chair of the Charter Review Committee in the room without objection. Maybe Mike Eisen, you could explain why your committee, in your estimation, any objections? Come ahead, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, City Attorney, City Clerk, and City Manager. I was chosen one of 11 city individuals within the city in 4 zones to sit on a charter review committee to provide guidance and suggestions and recommendations back to the commission, which you charged us with doing in 25. And we did what you asked. We provided 7 changes to the city charter. And I was disappointed when it was voted down. Can't say that I wasn't. However, I'm happy to hear that it's being revisited. You gave us a task, we did it, and we have still been sequestered. I cannot talk to the other 10 members of this charter until we're dismissed. And I don't really think that's fair to us. We gave you direct recommendations that I think this city commission and mayor, the entire commission, should vote on. Even before any additional preamble, that's not what I want you to vote on what we gave you. And if you do that and you want to make additional changes, that's great. But right now, I'm speaking for myself, but I think I'm speaking for the rest of the committee. We spent a lot of time. We got public participation. We heard what they said. And we almost unanimously voted on every one of those 7 items. And we're from all over 32,000 citizens here. And we came together and we had an agreement. And so we gave you our agreement. So my expectation is that you vote on what we gave you and let our citizens vote without a general election so they can really focus. Citizens deserve to be able to have a say in the city government. You're not voting for these changes that we recommended. The citizens are. Give them an opportunity to vote, and not in 26, now, because that's what your directives was. And thank you for letting me say that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Eisen? Thank you. Don't leave the room. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I'd like to read. I'm sorry. Section 7.03 Charter Review. This is from our current charter. There shall be a periodic review of this charter by a Charter Review Advisory Committee appointed by the City Commission in 2026 and every 10 years thereafter. Each zone in the city shall have representation on the committee. That was well thought through at the time. And I must admit, when the prospect of appointing the committee in 2025 came up, my understanding was, and I didn't question it, that great, this would have a nice long time to carefully consider every aspect of the charter, including things like getting procedures out of it which don't belong in the charter, and that it would, as our original charter review committee wanted, to be part of the general election. I don't think that putting it in the general election negates the work you did. We can still make the same votes. We can still set it up now to go on the 2026 ballot. By the way, you talked about things like the 50% plus 1. We're now living in a world of unprecedented. I mean, it's like one of the most frequently used words on television today. This was unprecedented. That was unprecedented. So it's sort of like we can move forward with that. And as for, say, 50K, I mean, it's being treated like throwaway money, and our minimum wage workers would really like to have some of that. So I think it's more important to allocate it to the staff that keeps the city running than to a special election that really does not comply with the current charter, regardless of the ability from the state that we can change that. But that was the last charter review, and those were very carefully considered items. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I've gone a 3rd time, but I feel motivated to do that. With respect to my colleague, the city attorney has told us numerous times that the commission can engage in a charter review at any time under state statute. this commission decided to do that, and every member up here appointed people. Every member up here, all of us appointed people to do this in 2025. So there's no surprises. That was what we all voted to do. So we're all party to that. You point out eloquently that we don't want to disrespect the work that was done by the charter review in 2020. But with respect, ma'am, it was you and your group that stood on the steps of the Brannon Center protesting and encouraging people to vote that review down, to vote against it, handing out flyers, et cetera. So while you speak eloquently today about how great it was your campaign to, as a member of the Charter Review, you served with those people for many, many months and turned at the end and said, please vote this down. So today to speak about how great it is, I find a bit puzzling, just in my mind. I don't want to waste any money, and I appreciate you saying that I'm wasteful with money. It's not true. But the Cowper's words, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the effort worth it? The tens of thousands of dollars that get spent in an election is no, and time and effort, as Commissioner Ashley points out, is no small consumption of resources. And so between your money and your time and the distractions and the statistically impossible means to overcome a primary election, it just doesn't track for me. That's a secondary measure. I want to make sure that the city clerk and what's going on now around the city staff continues in this positive vein. I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable with that. So I think the urgency is we came to this point with an interim city clerk because of a disaster we had previously. And we fixed that disaster, and we're recovering from that now. Let us stay on that trail and do the right thing, which is install her permanently in one side or the other. She can function in either side, as she's already said, but let us get off the teeter-totter. That's my view. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
So we discussed this when we voted to have this charter review in 2025 instead of 2026, because we could. And we all talked about the reasons in that meeting. And a lot of those reasons are things were broken and they needed to be fixed. It wasn't that the previous charter review is negated. That's not true. I was involved with the charter review. I wasn't on it, but I read it, and I know the protests that were going on, and I know the flyers that were passed out right during the meeting at the Brannon. I read those. I don't want to get into this happened or this didn't happen, because I know what I know, and you guys know what you know. But the comment about the minimum wage, that $50,000 allocated for the special election does not take from minimum wage. We don't pull from one pool to put in another pool when it has that allocated in our budget. So that statement needs to be stricken. I supported Mark Billings 2 weeks ago, and I appreciated all the work they did, and I was the only one that saw it the way I did that night by stating we appointed them to represent our constituents now, not from 2020, and the needs. And there were people that showed up, and I watched his meetings, and I'm sure each one of you either was there or watched them. Things are broken, and we just needed to fix them. And our charter review was appointed to do that. And that's where we are right now.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to respond to comments that you've both made, and I freely admit there were things about the last charter that I objected to. That being said, I was one of 11. It went to the voters. The voters said they wanted it. And so therefore, I am supporting the work of many of my colleagues on the charter review, as well as the voters who said yes. So I think it is irrelevant what my personal feelings were. I, as a citizen of New Smyrna Beach, agreed to abide by that which the citizens of New Smyrna Beach had decided was right for them.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Commissioner Ashley.
And I agree with you. And what I propose is to have the citizens have that opportunity again this November.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Martin,
No.
Commissioner Perine,
I don't think I can vote.
Oh, no, once the motion for, you can absolutely
I
can
can
vote.
vote
Yes,
again?
and you're required to vote.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. And so, Madam Attorney, do we need a second motion that clarifies it and says this, and we could debate for clarity, that this body wants this brought to the public for their vote in 2025, or at the special, let me just say it differently, special election?
So now we're talking about the preamble, right?
No,
Correct?
just,
Or
we
no?
voted to reconsider.
Oh, I'm
and so-
sorry. Yes, so now there's a second motion, which would be to, whoever makes the motion to put it on the 20, and I can't guarantee a date for
No, I got
25
that.
without talking.
And then
but-
following that, we could entertain a motion to include a preamble or any additions.
Okay, correct. So let's start with the election selection.
You bet.
So
Motion for 25.
I move that we make a motion to have the election, special election, in November of 2025. Yes?
I don't want you to lock in on November 2025 because I do have to
Okay.
talk to the supervisor of elections, but if you say special election, and I'll let you know what the
Okay.
supervisor of elections says in terms of dates.
Okay, so I move to have a special election.
There's a motion to have a special election to consider the Charter Review Committee's work. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin,
No.
Commissioner Perine,
Yes, again.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes?
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, the motion carries. Is there appetite to discuss your preamble idea, and would you like to make that a motion to add that to consideration by the Charter Review? I understand the sentiment from the committee was, we've done our work. We don't want to do more work if you don't finish the work that we've already done. And so I think it would appease them if we've already appeased them by saying we're gonna do what you asked us to do. Maybe they'll do some more work for us. Now, they haven't been dismissed. So if you want to make a motion in that regard.
So when the Charter Review brought their recommendations, you all are free to accept, reject, or come up with your own. So there's no requirement that the preamble has to go to the Charter Review Committee.
That's a good point. We could do it. We could write it ourselves if we wanted to. Mr. Ashley, your initiative, sir.
So just my understanding, I mean, I don't believe, the only people that have read this is you and I. And would it be common courtesy to just let the other commissioners see what we came up with?
Yes. Why don't I take what you have, draft a draft ordinance, and I'll send it to the commission. I'll put it on with the other items, and you all can then decide, is it ready, is it not ready?
And give us
But then
time to
give you
look
guys
it
the
over.
opportunity
Yeah.
to review it and then decide how to move from there. But it can be considered to go with these other 7.
And does he bring that motion next time we meet?
I would need the direction now to draft an ordinance, and then I can just collect your feedback and we can talk about it at the next commission meeting.
Chair would entertain a motion to direct city attorney to start the verbiage for preamble.
Using, and I would use Commissioner Ashley's
Commissioner Ashley's
as the
template.
base. Yep.
Is there a motion for that?
I move we do that.
Second for
And there's
discussion.
second for discussion, Commissioner McGurk.
So, with all due respect, I understand your feelings on this. You've made it clear you want to tweak it. But at this point, I'm not comfortable with going forward with making changes to the document, to the charter. We've had that, we've voted on that, we move forward on it. And what that's going to do is, if I support you doing it, there's 4 other people on the dais who could have their own opinion, and we could end up just opening up the whole document for whatever people want. So, with all due respect, I admire your willingness to want to, change the preamble. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it, but I'm not going to be able to support it simply because I don't want to open up that can of worms this late in the process. Thank you.
And not to have any impact on how you all vote, but there would be an opportunity if it didn't happen this time to adopt it in 26 and put it on the 26 as well, or another special election, which I know would not be cost.
So for clarity, I think what she said is if it's too much verbiage, and I would encourage, if we do open it up, Commissioner Martin's got a list of things that you've talked about that you would like to have considered. That, I think it's, at that point, maybe ollie in free. That would allow all sides to put it. Whether it goes in 25 or 26 is debatable. If it's too much, the clerk, the supervisor's election say, hey, I've got all I can take. You can have what you've voted on those 7 items, but I can't keep going in 25. I've got to push that off. She may well do that.
Right, and then the part that you and I have talked about is there was some question whether, there's certain things that if you have on the books that are in conflict with state law, they can be removed by ordinance. I looked into that, and while the governor did pass, he passed some not the governor, the state has passed some legislation that required the removal of diversity, equity, inclusion type language from our universities and colleges. He did it in a few different places, but at this point it hasn't been specifically extended to municipalities. So it does apply to some state agencies and universities, but so far it hasn't reached down here, so that's just for your consideration.
It would be voluntary for us to change it. It's not being pushed by the state.
Correct.
Is your point? Okay.
Well, the way I looked at it was based on the pillars that our city manager had put forth for the new foundation of the city. I didn't really even think about that part so much as to try to encapsulate the principles that our city manager wants to put forth going forward to make it a better city. So that's kind of how I looked at it. The other stuff, to me, it's incidental,
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. So I think we have a motion and a second, and we're deciding on whether to direct the city attorney to work with Commissioner Ashley and flush out the verbiage for the revision on the preamble. So, any further discussion? Any other comments?
I have another comment. I am just talking about the preamble. I don't want to open any can of worms. I don't want to talk about anything else. The Charter Commission has already done a lot. My concern was the preamble, the introduction to our city constitution. That's it.
Commissioner Martin, if it was opened up to reconsideration, you have some items that you'd like to put in there.
Well,
Or you did before.
Okay, well, if we're talking, I thought we were talking only about the possibility of changing the preamble.
We were.
And I feel like, I personally feel at this point, we've complicated things quite enough. and any additional complication, I don't think it would be beneficial. And again, going back to the charter as it exists now, we did do a whole charter, not piece by piece, which meant that if you disagreed with anything new in that 2020 charter, you had to vote against the entire charter. You did not have the option to vote on each change. But I truly think we have complicated things enough now, and as our city attorney has pointed out, we can bring that up again anytime we want, including putting another charter amendment on the 2026 election.
Very good. So you have no interest in adding any more?
To our current charter?
If we open this back up we reconsider the preamble, you don't want more things considered at that point?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have other things like, for example, procedures that everything I've been taught about doing a charter says you don't put procedures in the charter. You may say, yes, we accept annexations within this border, but then you don't have pages of how those annexations are processed. And that's just like one example. So if we went back in and we could properly look for any procedures that could be removed while leaving the intent,
Yeah, we got it.
I would certainly go for that.
So just for clarity, so it is not confusing. We've just voted, for clarity, we've just voted to take this up in 2025. There's a motion on the floor to consider also the preamble, and it may get considered in 25 or 26, depending on the supervisor elections bandwidth. And I think what I heard you say is you didn't want to complicate it by adding any more in 2025 or 26. Have I got it right?
I said for 2025, adding the preamble at this point, I truly think is like one confusion too many.
Right.
On already a large list, but that certainly doesn't preclude, as our city attorney pointed out, that it could still be on the 2026 ballot.
Sure.
For another edition.
So it's your desire not to open it up to other topics.
I thought we were only discussing the preamble.
We are. I know that your interest, as stated earlier in other meetings, was you have a slew of things you'd like looked at. And so I was hoping to offer you the opportunity to do that. And if you don't want that, that's fine too.
I don't think I said a slew. I suggested, for example, the procedures. And, there are things I disagree with. Of course, we all have areas of disagreement. I would look at it somewhat differently if we continued it, but that does not seem to be the commission's majority perspective.
Okay. All right. Very good. Madam Clerk, is the motion, have you got it down?
Yes.
Restate for the crowd.
Is to direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance regarding the preamble that Commissioner Ashley has provided.
Very good. Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
No.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
No.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes. Motion fails, and so we will bring forward just the items for 2025 to the Supervisor of Elections as best we can, as worded, as the Charter Review Committee has already worded for us.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I only said no to the preamble but I do want to make changes to it. But I think we need to have a workshop first, because Commissioner Martin mentioned that she has a slew of things that need to be changed with languages that have been outdated, and so do I. I have been asking for 3 years up here for us to look at our boards and the qualifications and the language of their objectives. I would like to see a workshop that we address all these little quirky languages that are outdated, including the preamble. But I think we need to open that up also to our citizens' input, to let us all look at the agenda and the topics that we all feel need revised and looked at. Because I'm with her. We've got some outdated language. And I was going to mention that in my commissioner report of how this doesn't fit any longer. And for 3 years I've been saying that. So it's time. We need it. We need it. Thank you, Commissioner Ashley, and all of you, because it's time we look at all these important matters.
Yes, ma'am, go right
I
ahead.
just wanted to see, you're suggesting a charter workshop for the commission?
No,
Oh,
language of that needs to be changed, not a charter workshop, because we've already had that, just to discuss the items such as the mayor mentioned that, and I don't know what the items are that you wanted changed, but I have items that I want changed, and we've already met on the charter, so that's in the past.
These may not be charter items, they may be procedural items. I think the attorney is getting ready to point out, these are procedural items that the city has in their own ordinances and in our own set of rules. Is that accurate?
Correct. And then just one item I wanted to mention to Ms. Martin is, I will be moving an ordinance forward, removing the annexation language from our charter. That does not have to go to a voter referendum because it's in direct conflict with state law.
okay, and that's fine. That was just the one procedure that starts the whole thing that was making me crazy. But, you know, because so many of these things have become contentious and looked at, I personally could understand a public workshop where people can hear us actually discuss what we think is good and bad about different areas of the charter, including the proposed amendments. So I welcome the idea of a public charter workshop.
Okay. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the vote. Mr. Manager, thank you for that report, which spurred all this conversation early in the meeting. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to our favorite part, public participation. If you'd like to address the commission, we'll give you an opportunity to talk to us about, in a monologue fashion, we won't be answering questions. But if you have a point you'd like to make, there's an item of contention, there's something that you are concerned about, or you have interest in recognizing a point of excellence by the city staff, we'd love for you to come forward. You'll have 3 minutes. When you get to the microphone, you'll see the green light. The yellow light means 1 minute, and the red light, you need to be done. And when you come forward, just your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and members of the community. My name is Nate Monsanto. I've got Josh Daniels, Sam Daniels, and Josie Hale with me. I'm here on behalf of Current FC, New Smyrna Beach's very own semi-professional soccer team. We're located at the NSB Sports Complex, 1800 Turnbull Bay Road. In the past 18 months, while partnering with Southeast Volusia Soccer Club Surf, we've grown into a club that represents our community at every level. We are committed to developing players and people from the youngest Lil Groms all the way to high school, college, semi-pro, and professional opportunities. Our mission is simple but powerful: to be the home for local talent in Southeast Volusia County. Our values are rooted in player development, community first, inclusivity, and creating a clear pathway to the pros. On the field, we have delivered incredible results. Our men's team are the 2025 UPSL Florida State champions. We had over 500 fans at the New Smyrna Beach Stadium, and when we beat a strong team from Miami 1-0 and created history, bringing home the first soccer state championship to New Smyrna Beach. Our women's team, in their very first season, also made it all the way to the Central Florida Championship game. Even more important than the titles, we're building futures. We've already helped 3 players sign professional contracts and even supported 1 player signing an academy contract in Germany. Through a partnership with Prospect to Player, we can now connect NSB players to more than 900 college programs nationwide. In total, we've helped more than 50 boys and girls from the Volusia-Flagler area go on to play college soccer. And even better, we've got kids right here at local schools such as Daytona State, Stetson University, Embry-Riddle, Rollins, and Flagler College. Some are on full ride scholarships. We're proud to call the NSB Sports Complex our home, and we'd like to thank the complex staff and director for aiding in our use of a state-of-the-art facility. For us, this is more than just soccer. It's about creating opportunity, inspiring the next generation, and building something that brings pride to our city. We're not here asking for funding. We're here to spread awareness, to say loudly and clearly, Current FC is here. We're growing, and we want to make history by bringing professional sports to New Smyrna Beach. We want a community celebration that will bring families together, grow the love of the game, and support our local businesses, restaurants, shops, and hotels. The timing couldn't be better. With the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the largest viewed sporting event on the planet, coming to the USA next summer. Soccer is about to explode in popularity. New Smyrna Beach has a real chance to get ahead of that wave and become a soccer destination that draws fans and dollars from across Central Florida. Thank you for your time and for supporting the growth of sports. We invite you to join the wave and be a part of Current FC's future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for your comments. Sir.
Hello, and I just wanted to add that, again, my name is Joshua Daniels. As a father and a local business owner, my son Israel, who was beginning his first year at Stetson playing soccer when he was his brother's age, Sam went through our club. I remember Mr. McGurk's children playing there, and I just wanted to bring up, imagine if we had that back then, where we had professional players who are now playing semi-pro, being able to come and give their expertise and coach our kids, and that's what they're doing now. And just imagine us as a city being able to tell our city members and those coming in as tourists and those coming in as just spending the day here, the city being able to advertise, but then the revenue that could come in from that, hey, spend a day at the beach, spend a day at our restaurants, spend the night over at our hotels, and then come and watch our professional women's team and our professional men's team play under the lights here at our sports complex. And that's what I just wanted to share. And the last thing is, I remember our first semi-professional game we had, my parents, Sam's grandparents came, and they're in their mid-70s, and they watched the first professional game that we had, and they said after, it was just a terrific way to spend an afternoon and evening. And we wanted to share that with the city. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comments. Thank you, guys. Anyone else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation. Oh, Ms. Sneziak.
Cindy Sneezak, 512 Yupon. I just want to thank Engineer Kyle Fegley for the last several presentations he has made on stormwater management. Kyle, you've done an excellent job. Clear language, good summarization. I'm sure there are folks that would want things to move faster than they have, but I understand why they do not. Also, you have an agenda item. I still think it's on the agenda, but we ran out of agendas when Mr. Cowper went down on what was being moved or deleted or whatever. But the item that was 8A, which is the consideration of the McHenry's gift of land on Riverside Drive to the city, I hope you'll seriously consider doing that. I didn't realize that there was such historical significance to that particular parcel of land. So it's really the waterfront land that's important. Whatever the city does with some sort of special right-of-way, whether they give it to the homeowners or whatever, I could care less about that. But that's really a phenomenal thing for them to bring forward, and I think the attorney's going to speak to that tonight. And I just want to verify whether or not 8B, which was the clerk's item, was in fact removed from the agenda. You went so fast, Kevin.
No, item 8B is on the agenda, although the information was amended.
Okay, so I will speak to that in my minute and 15 seconds. I did a public information request today because the 31% raise that was proposed in what the public could see on that agenda item earlier today gave me reason for pause. Number one, I'm not sure why. We feel the need to push forward a contract on the interim for the clerk. As a citizen, I resent the repeated mischaracterization of what went on with the last city clerk, including how things are reported in that report. So I find it ironic that the benefits of removing someone from that position now are falling to certain individuals. So a 31% increase is along the lines of the unbelievable increases that were given at the 6-month point of the budget to both the city attorney and the city manager. So I hope there's not consideration of that kind of a raise. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Good evening, Diane. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Diane Bean. I live at 304 Cedar Avenue, and I have applied to be a part of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I just wanted to briefly give you some ideas of why I feel I'm qualified for that. I have personally renovated 5 historic homes. I currently live in one. I lived here full-time for 14 years and part-time for 23 years. I feel I know the community quite well. I have also volunteered for the Historic Preservation Award Committee, the Historic Neighborhood Designation Committee, and I have volunteered to have my homes and historic tours for the public. So since tonight is going long, I just wanted to make that short and ask for your support when you vote this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Welcome back, Mr. Blowback.
Thank you. Joe Blowback, Venetian Bay. Just a couple of points. We're talking in there on the agenda this evening, or maybe then be deferred, discussions about salary. The city, we are told, is conducting a salary study. And to decide on what to do before that study is completed is a bit premature. Secondly, I want to make the point that, as I always have, the issue of talking about salary is so parochial because it isn't the salary, it's the total compensation package that really makes a difference. We're talking about vacation time, we're talking about benefits, we're talking about insurance, both life and health. To talk about salary is very short-sighted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else for public participation? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jack Coughlin. I live at 205 Sapphire Road. And I'm here regarding the new plans for paid parking the city is trying to implement on Sapphire. First, I want to say that I have met a couple of the commissioners, met most of the planning and development team, and for the most part, it's been fairly cordial. Let's see, where am I here? I want to thank Steve Mendengraw for continued updates. Now for the issues. Your plans are still unacceptable. As for the new 10-foot sidewalk that's going to go in at proper levels, that's fantastic. This will hopefully keep the kids from running into the street, getting hurt, or even getting hit by a car. But the plans for paid parking is hurtful. You want to take a residential street and turn it commercial. Not only is this disruptive to the quality of our life, but it will also kill the value of our properties. My wife and I have always enjoyed sitting on our front porch and relaxing. Your plans call for us to enjoy looking at 15-plus signs and meters. Signs stated no parking here to the corner, parallel parking only, paid meter here, etc. That's not very enjoyable, and I'm sure most of you up there will agree. You are destroying our lifestyle. You're destroying the property values. For what? 11 parking spaces that will most likely be occupied by Volusia County residents that don't even pay. They don't have to pay. I've seen renovations throughout the area, and for the most part, they're nice. I recently visited the Marine Discovery Center and noticed their new parking. It's beautiful. The landscaping's amazing. Why can't we do that to Sapphire and make the area lush and beautiful with similar landscaping? This would probably increase the values of our home versus devaluing. I continue to hear it's required to have 11 parallel spots, and I don't understand that. For 20 years, nothing was done. Maybe our Commissioner Lisa can go to work for us. Maybe she can go back in the archives 5, 10, 15 years and see if there's any correspondence concerning this. Maybe old texts, emails. Maybe fight for us. I'll continue to pray that you do the right thing and make Sapphire Road a no parking zone. It would be much appreciated, and it will save the values. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Jack. Anyone else for public participation?
Good evening, I'm Gene Verano. I live at 209 Sapphire Road. As was July 8th, I had a lot more prepared than I will go into at the moment, but I do have something prepared. Certainly, we haven't heard from you from our request on July 8th to remove the on-street parking on Sapphire Road. It is possible. I have the agreement, which is essentially for the public that's present. These are deed restrictions that the city agreed to in purchasing the parcels that make up the North Beach Community Park. Yes, there's a stipulation that you provide parking. However, you haven't been in compliance for 20 years. There are currently no parking signs in areas stipulated that you would provide that parking. You don't know how they got those no parking signs got there. You don't know how they got there, okay? Florida Communities Trust is not going to run you out of the building on a railroad tie because you come as a city and request to put no parking signs up. They're not going to say, what? We want parking and everything that goes with it. No, they're not going to say that. As my neighbor, Mr. Coughlin, pointed out, your arbitrary and emotional decisions on this parking scheme for paid parking in the North Beach area is impacting our quality of life and the quality and the value of our homes, and for nothing. The parking problem is not a parking problem, it's a beach operation problem. Volusia County operates the beach, you don't. And if parking for the beach is the goal, that's counter to what the property was developed for, what was purchased for. The property, and I can quote for you, the property shall be managed only for the conservation, protection, and enhancement of natural and historical resources and for passive natural resource-based public outdoor recreation, which is compatible with the conservation, protection, and enhancement of the project site. So how does monetizing and bringing commercial parking to my residential neighborhood, how is that in accordance with this? And how is it I can get the commission to take up this request and go to Florida Communities Trust? I mean, I know that you don't want to answer questions. You can answer questions. Can you answer that one? How do I get the city to go to the Florida Communities Trust and ask them a simple question, which there are provisions for in the agreement? Does anybody care to answer? City Manager, can you answer that question?
We're not going to do a dialogue here. This is a monologue, and your time is nearly up. If you'd like to close, I'll give you a chance to do that, Mr. Arano.
Well, again, I would like to hear from some representative of the city how I can get the City Commission to take our request to Florida Communities Trust. That's all I'm asking. I know that the commission has to direct the city manager to put up no parking signs. That's the only authorization in the city, except when there's a deed restriction. Now you've brought somebody else into the decision train, and we'd like to hear from them.
Appreciate your comments. I know you'll hear back from the city manager. Anybody else for public participation? Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Thank you very much for all that. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Does any of my colleagues wish to comment on any of the items that are on the consent agenda, noting that items 7, B, and C have been moved? Anybody?
I just want to check. I believe the Economic Advisory Board was moved.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, if nobody else has a question, I've got one. Maybe the chief
can help us with 7E, which talks about the approval of an amendment to the opioid abatement grant. It involves the purchase of a John boat. And if I understand it right, Chief, this is to get into the flat waters that you can't get into with your larger boat and make sure that that area gets patrolled. Have I got that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Our boat has too big of a draft to get into the shallow waters throughout most of the city, so that's what that was for.
And it's a matter of public safety and health and wellness check on vessels that might be marooned or what have you. That's the intent, right?
Yes, sir. That
Okay.
derelict vessel is opioid abatement for services to transient populations, mental health considerations, any police response to
Wonderful.
tight waters.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any of my colleagues wish to pull any of those items on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda except items 7B and C, which have been moved?
So move.
A motion?
Second.
A second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, moving on to administrative items. City Manager, if you don't mind setting this one up, this is a consideration for the donation of a property located on South Riverside Drive from Randy and Sherry McHenry via quitclaim deed.
Yes, sir. We were approached by Mr. McHenry some time ago with the offer to donate this property, a part of which is waterfront property. City attorney worked with Attorney Storch and worked out the deed arrangements, and we've looked at the property. It is, as was mentioned earlier by a citizen, does have some historic qualities to it, being that it was part of a railroad and waterfront. There's remnants of a pier that are still in the water associated with those unloading, loading activities. So I think anytime that we're able to obtain some waterfront property, there's certain value to that, and hopefully as time goes by, we can assemble it with additional properties. I think Mr. McHenry and his family are here. Mr. Storch is here and can also offer or answer any questions that you may have, but certainly want to recognize.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Mr.
that.
McHenry.
The McHenrys are here tonight. Thank you so very much. Any questions for the manager on this one? Commissioner Martin?
Well, just a couple of things. I noticed that there were 2 quitclaim deeds included in the agenda, and I couldn't parse how they were different. And the other question was that both referred to not being contiguous to a homesteaded property, but 800 South Riverside is contiguous and is homesteaded, so I'm confused.
Okay, I think we've got Mr. Storch, who's prepared to help us understand that a little bit more. Mr. Storch, Glenn Storch, Storch Law Firm.
That's right. Thank you for allowing me to do that. So the bottom line is, yes, there were 2 deeds provided. One was a PDF and one was a Word version. So the Word version could be changed if there was any desire to do so. And one was a PDF, which means you can't change it. It's a deed.
No, I understand that,
Okay.
but the verbiage, there were
Yeah.
several pages different.
So the verbiage difference, the fact that it talked about the fact it's not next to a homestead property means it's not next to a homestead property that was owned by the grantor. These are form deeds. And so if a homestead property was owned by the grantor, it would create a cloud on the title because you can't transfer the homestead.
Thank you.
So what I did do is, to clarify, I gave Carrie one that said homestead, no homestead owned by the grantor. Clarified it.
Which is great. Suggest you go, if you look at the actual agenda, it's not just a PDF Word difference. I would like to point out, I learned today from someone in your office that that's a very historic site there at the river, and apparently was a dock where boats would come in and unload, no?
It's more than that.
Yeah,
This
okay.
is, I know you say that things were unloaded. This was the lifeblood of the entire city. This is probably one of the most important sites in the entire city at one point. It was owned for over 100 years by the by the railroad. And this was the spur where you got everything from the river, which of course was the other main road to New Smyrna. There was a railroad and there was the Indian River. And that was the place where everything took place. Everything, all the commerce took place on that pier. Clay Henderson showed this to me one time, and he showed it to me at low tide. And what you could find out there at low tide, because of the fact so much had come through there during that time frame. And then, of course, the railroad owned the property that had that spur to the pier, so they could load things up and take them to the train, or take them from the train and put them on the pier. And that just sort of disappeared in history. And I was told today that not everybody knows this. I guess I'm old. So yes, this was a very important spot. Randy and Sherry McHenry were able to buy this years ago from the railroad, which we greatly appreciated. The fact that they want to donate this to you now, to the city now, just shows how much Randy and Sherry love the city. All the investments they've made in the city is one thing, but this is really important. And what I'm hoping for, and by the way, noticed on the staff report that it indicated that they had asked for a sign or to it be named. They didn't ask for that. I asked for that. I thought it was important that we recognize that the McHenrys gave this property, but as part of that, it needs to also show what the history was, why this was so important to the city of New Smyrna, what happened 100 years ago in these areas. So that was my idea for the sign.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Swartz. Appreciate that. Appreciate the history lesson. I think Greg Holbrook from the museum would like to talk with you. Perfect. Is there a motion to accept the donation of property located on Riverside Drive from the McHenrys?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes?
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes.
Thank you.
To the McHenrys, on behalf of the commission, on behalf of the city and the residents, we're grateful for all that you do in our town. Thank you very, very much. Item 8B is to consideration of an employment contract with the city clerk. Mr. McHenry.
I'd like to say that you're welcome, but I'd also like to ask you to, or somebody from the city to contact me, because we might have some friends. A senator was here that would help us raise some money to put a table there. Or we've talked to some people, because that's where the boats used to tie up at the dock. And we might make a small sign. I don't want to make a sign, and I think the city, Sherry would work with somebody at the city to make a sign that the city Parks Department would approve. But I think we could fund the sign to have it be, it's walking distance, and I think it would be a park. And also, if you look at a piece of the land on either side of Clint Street, there are two long strips of land that go all the way back to the next block, which would be a place that we could either plant some trees and or have some parking spots for the park. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. All right, Madam City Attorney, on to item 8B, if you don't mind.
Yes, at the last city commission meeting, you directed me to bring back a contract removing the interim title from essentially making the city clerk a permanent position rather than an interim title. I did that. The changes, the salary is set in the revised version at the existing salary. The only language add that was of substance but is consistent with the city manager and the city attorney contract is that the city clerk shall be entitled to any general wage increase that other members of the city are entitled to, and that is consistent with our contracts.
Questions for the commission? Commissioner Perrine.
How does this flow with how we voted tonight for this to be on the ballot?
So the one thing it is set up for, I need to look because I may have drafted it prior to this vote. So I may need to tweak it to say, based on the results of a special election, the city commission shall either enter into, this is a term contract, so it would end. So you'd either enter into a new contract if the referendum vote failed, or the contract would terminate and she would go under the city manager's if the referenda passes. So I will probably have to make one tweak. I don't have it in front of me at the second, but I did draft it based on a November 26th election. So I would need to change, once I find out from the supervisor of elections the date of the election, I'll change the term to be consistent with whatever that is. So I would need authority from you all to make that revision.
Okay. Any other?
And the
Yes, ma'am.
change, can you elaborate? Didn't you tell me in briefings that something was pulled from that versus what?
Yes, there was a request for an increase to salary, but that request has been withdrawn and it is staying at the existing salary.
Thank you. That's what I
Commissioner
thought.
McGirt.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Gary, clarify for me what we're accomplishing exactly tonight.
It removes Ms. Taylor Harding's interim position. We enter into a term contract with her that will end consistent with once we know the results of the referendum. Depending on what happens there, you will either consider entering into a new contract, which would be open-ended, consistent with ours, or if the referenda passes, you're now set up for her to move smoothly and transition under Mr. Cowper.
Okay, and so what about the salary discussion portion of that? When does that take place?
So what we discussed is in April, we have our evaluations, and that would be a good time to consider looking at the market rates, or depending on what comes back on the salary study, taking all of that into account.
Okay, and so the special election, if and when that happens, also can play an effect of who and when that negotiation happens.
Correct. So as soon as I find out from the supervisor of election when this election can happen, I'll find out tomorrow and I'll revise that contract to be consistent with that term.
Okay, so I'm happy with the way everything's going. What I would like to have the commission consider with the removal of her interim is some sort of modest pay increase to acknowledge the interim being removed and the fact that she will be, her salary will be negotiated, but at some point technically unknown in the future. So I think it would be a good gesture for the commission to give her a modest increase with tonight with that, to show her that we appreciate what she's done and embrace her, and also say, she's getting caught up in our stuff. So I would propose that we give her a $5,000 increase in salary to $103,728 tonight as a recognition of her becoming the official city clerk, and so she doesn't sit there in complete limbo, not knowing where she's going to be at and where it could be, and whether that's going to be in April after evaluations or whether that's going to be sooner or later, depending on the general election. There's a lot going on there. So that's what I would like to see happen.
And that's your motion, sir?
Well, I'll certainly make a motion. I'll make a motion to raise the city clerk to $105,000 $103,728, which is a $5,000 increase from what she's making now.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Very good. And let's have some discussion on that. For clarification, can you talk, you may not have these stats, so it may be unfair. Her predecessor was making what at departure, and what does this represent?
Predecessor
compared to
was
that?
at 100,000.
Pardon?
Predecessor was at 100,000 upon departure.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, just a couple, one, I'm not clear whether the motion is to remove the interim status separate from the salary question, and just sort of, I guess I'd call it a point of order. I am very happy with Sharon, our city clerk's performance, and I don't want what I'm going to say to take anything away from that, because I really am. But it occurs to me, we never discussed whether we would go out to search for one of the most important, top 3 people in town. And it's more a point of order, not casting any aspersions. But when did the commission decide just to do that rather than whether or not to have a search?
Mr. City Manager or Madam City Attorney, can you refresh our memory? Do you remember how that went down? I don't remember
Last
myself.
meeting. So upon the separation of the previous clerk, you appointed Ms. Taylor Harding, the interim clerk. And then at the last meeting, there was a motion to bring back the contract no longer as an interim, but as the city clerk.
So we in effect negated any search by the
Correct.
vote. Got it.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I still need clarification on which motion we're talking about. 'Cause there
So
was a
his
different
motion,
I understand. My motion is to increase her salary by $5,000 to $103,728.
and remove the interim status.
Well, I thought,
So
I didn't state that in my initial motion.
So whether you want to do 2 motions or 1 motion, a motion to approve the contract with the revisions as the city attorney described, as well as a $5,000 increase to salary.
Like that, or you want them separate?
It doesn't matter to me, because if it doesn't go through, we still can make another motion. So I'll make amend my motion to remove the interim from the city clerk's title, make her city clerk, and a $5,000 salary increase.
And is there a second?
Discussion.
Second for discussion, Ms. Perrine.
So I actually verbally told this to Ms. Harding when I spoke with her on the phone. I think she's done a fabulous job, but for that to be a motion tonight, I'm not prepared. We just spent all this money on a wage survey, and I had mentioned to Mrs. Harding that I want to evaluate any raise increase with that wage survey. Now that she's been in the position 7 months, we're telling all the other employees that they have to wait on the wage survey, including, these meetings we've had this week. I think in all fairness, I would like to look at her raise and review it, but to continue that, not do it tonight. I'm not prepared for that. I need to look at, before I vote on something, where she falls with that, how she relates. And we did get the city clerk's information in the wage survey, but we're waiting on the benefits. It's a whole package deal. We constantly say that over and over, and I don't know how her package relates to everyone else. So I'm not prepared tonight to vote on the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah,
Commissioner Ashley.
I'm prepared, and I think it's a goodwill gesture.
Gotcha. Commissioner Martin.
One, I believe that I'm asking for 2 separate motions because I'm very happy to remove the term interim from city clerk's title. But on the other hand, I do not believe that we should be giving any singular person, particularly senior or executive staff, a raise when we're asking all of our staff, to other staff, to wait for this study. And it just doesn't seem right to me. It just feels like we're playing elite. So I think we should wait for that study to come in and be able to evaluate the entire package, not just for the city clerk's provision, but even, for our maintenance people. I mean, we need to understand the context and treat everybody the same.
Any other discussion? I have a point. Can you or Joe or the manager potentially, from what you've seen in the salary part of the salary study, does any of those categories that have already been considered lower the salary of any of the people that are being considered?
Lower the salary?
Does it lower any of the salaries?
No, sir.
Okay. So there's no opportunity, no chance that we would say we're going to take what the previous city clerk made and make it lower.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. So the previous city clerk was making how much?
100,000.
100. And what is Sharon's current salary?
98.5. Hold on 1 second.
Should be 98,728.
That's what it should be.
Okay, good enough. So that's within, that's pretty tight within the margin of error. I kind of, first round here of opinions, we've heard them all, I'll give you one mine, is I like the good faith idea. Everybody likes the performance. I don't see an opportunity for us to lower the salary from what the previous city clerk was paid. She's performing the duty now of the previous city clerk for less money. And so as a good faith gesture and with zero risk of the cut study coming in and saying, we'll lower your salary but give you better benefits, I think it's safe. It's a safe move. That's my view. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Martin.
Well, I was going to say, once again, we can't just talk about salaries, we talk about total packages. But your point about removing it so that the city clerk's position earns 100,000, that I could agree with if we kept it the same as that title was previously.
So I gave the 100,000 number. I don't have a document to support it. So the only thing I don't know, if we had a wage adjustment, it may have been at 103. And so I just let you know I'm not 100% accurate, confident in whether it's 100 or 103.
Yeah, and so the motion McGurk has made is a specific number, and he's amended it once. He wants both these, the title removed and the raise offered, concurrent with the motion. I'm not trying to influence you at all, but if you want to make it...
I can amend the motion to... I'm going to amend the 103,728 to 100,728.
How we doing there, City Attorney?
Well, there's a third issue because there is language change that would also need to be approved. So besides the title, besides the money, there's some language changes that are presented in that employment contract. So I would need a motion on that as well.
Well, what is that? What is the language that you would need?
So added in there was that she would be entitled to the general wage increase that other employees get throughout the city. And then there was the language tweaks regarding the timing of the election and the term contract versus considering an open-ended contract, depending on how the referenda shakes out.
So what are you asking?
Okay, why don't we start with approval of the city clerk's contract with the changes other than salary. Another idea, what if we move this one meeting? I'll have the dates all hammered out.
Let me do this. Let me walk this back. The last thing I wanted to do was unnecessarily complicate this. Let me rescind my motion, make a new motion that simply says to remove the interim from the city clerk and officially make her city clerk. And that'll be my first motion.
A motion to remove the title of interim and make permanent city clerk for Ms. Harding's title. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Attorney, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Perrine.
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, so that motion carries. So the second idea was that we would change, as a matter of goodwill, change the salary. Where I was headed was rather than a number, make it commensurate with, as Commissioner Martin said, commensurate with the previous city clerk's salary. That leaves it
So I
open
can
for
make
what
a
it is.
motion for that. Is that okay for you, Carrie?
Correct, and then I'll just get the number from HR as to what the last salary was, and
Make a motion to move the city clerk's salary to the previous clerk, Kelly McQuillan's salary.
I'll second
Motion and a
that.
second. Any other discussion? Okay, Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine.
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Madam City Attorney, for walking us through that. Appreciate
so
that.
there's
There's
other
more?
language in there.
There's
Yes.
more?
So I could bring back the contract next meeting with those changes as well as the revision, because right now it reads November 25th, 2026, the city commission shall consider entering into a new employment agreement with the city clerk unless a referendum passes eliminating the city clerk as a charter officer. So tonight, all of that changed. So I need to find out when the special election can be held and revise that language.
Got it.
Yeah, you
Okay,
bring
so I
back
can
with
bring
the
that
new-
back with those
the new-
changes.
Yeah, with the new salary. with
Removing the clerk,
Right.
the, using the previous city clerk's salary, and with the changes related to the referendum.
Right.
Very good. Thank you for the clarity. I know
You
that's.
don't need a motion on that, though.
I think I have direction.
Yeah, very good. We have consensus. And I'm grateful for the crowd to hang in with us. Some of this is technical and some of it is just good order, so I appreciate that. So we've moved items 7C, B, and C, and I think that becomes 8.
C and D.
We're there? Yeah? Okay, very good. And so is that your report or is it Carrie's report?
No, I'm sorry.
Samantha
Samantha's
Bergeron's
I'm
report.
sorry.
Okay, very good.
Would you like me to read that into the record, or would you like to?
Resolutions,
resolution?
we don't normally read the title.
Okay, got it. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner. My name is Samantha Bergeron. I'm your CRA and Economic Development Director. I'm here before you this evening to explain this resolution and just kind of give you a little bit of background information and what I would like to propose going forward. On your agenda this evening, I'm asking to sunset the current Economic Development Task Force. They've been doing a fantastic job, a great group of very professional people. All of their terms expire September 1st, 2025. And task forces are usually created for a specific task, and they were. Some of their focuses included workforce development, infrastructure, business climate, land development regulations, and commercial/industrial real estate development. They have been very successful, as I mentioned. We've conducted a business survey. We've encouraged the Deering Park Innovation Center, which was approved this past year, as our first live, work, play concept. They've been very successful promoting our CRA grant programs. We have just about all of those funds encumbered this year, which is fantastic. The tax abatement program was approved. We've held many workshops and workforce development programs with our partners such as the Southeast Volusia Manufacturing and Technology Coalition, the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce, Career Source, and the Commercial Realtors Committee. As we go forward, as I mentioned, a task force is very specific on their tasks. We have some very broad range projects that are coming forward. We are updating our CRA plan. We are updating our comprehensive economic development strategic plan. As you know, our comprehensive plan is also underway for being amended. So with that, it's kind of a broader range. And also as we go forward, I would like to add some more items onto the program of work, if you will. I feel very strongly that business retention and expansion is very important to us. We do a great job of recruiting. We have new businesses coming every day and you know, getting their business tax receipt and being on the list. But where I really would like to delve into and do a better job of is very much understanding what our local businesses need, what are their challenges that they face, and how we as a city can help them be successful. Research today shows us that 48% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years. That's staggering, and I don't want that to happen here in New Smyrna Beach. And so I'd like to take this a little bit different direction. In addition to that, our existing task force members, we have a few that have showed some interest in applying for the advisory board, which I would absolutely think would be wonderful and welcoming, as well as our city clerk and I are going to be working on updating our bylaws, as well as the criteria and work, as Ms. Perrine, you have mentioned that you would like to see done. And so we've been working on that as well as the application in the next few months. And so we hope to be able to roll this out to you in the very beginning of the year with a fresh, new, shiny look, different program of work, and different bylaws. So that's why this is why you're seeing this on the agenda, and kind of leads you into the next agenda item as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help.
Any questions for the Director of Economic Development? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I noticed when we got the updated resolution today that a couple of things happened. One, we removed the non-voting Utilities Commission member. I don't know why we removed that, but I'm sure there's a good reason.
That was a typo. That was something that was from previous years.
Okay.
If that's what this new Economic Development Advisory Board wants, or if that's what the commission would like, I really don't want to have any non-voting members, because I think every voting member on that on the advisory board is an important member and has something to say. You know, but we want to have a really good, diverse group. I'd love to have someone who's from the airport. That's a huge economic driver for our community, as well as someone that represents tourism, hospitality, restaurants. I mean, we're a foodie town. We're an art town. To have these different, diverse people on our advisory board, as well as from our largest employer, which is our hospital. So those are the kinds of things that I'm looking to bring to you as we move forward.
The other was the removal.
You have another question.
Oh, yeah. The removal of qualifications. For example, in the first edition, it had NSB residents and somebody some people that own businesses in NSB. And from my personal opinion, I would like the members to have both feet in town, because I think we have enough New Smyrna business owners across the board in all facets that we should be able to have a rich board that includes people who are New Smyrna residents and own businesses in New Smyrna.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else with a comment or a question? Yes, ma'am.
So I really like the direction you're going with this. I served 4 years on the Economic Development Board, and we were actually assigned tasks. And we were an advisory board as what you're going. I wasn't a part of the task force. They changed that. But I was part of the advisory board, and we developed a list of questions for our businesses and asked them what problems they had starting the new business in town, what was their obstacles, what would they like to see, better processes within the city, getting a business tax license, just we had a lot of questions like that. And then we reported that back to the commission board on a quarterly basis, and then we wanted their feedback. And a lot of times we felt that we didn't get the feedback from us, and I want to do a better job of us listening to these boards that volunteer their time and hearing them report back like you guys do. You do a very good job of that. And then also like Turnbull Creek, they do a very good job. We have some boards that actually, meet their objectives. And when we look for reappointments, I don't want to know how many times they were absent. I could care less about that. I want to know, did they meet their objectives, and did they do the tasks that were assigned to them, and did they contribute? Just because somebody volunteers, they need to be active, and we have things like that even with our Utilities Commission board. Were they active? Were they set objectives? And they have a whole set of rules, and some of our boards do. But I would like to see that what you're doing happen all the way across. Some we can't touch, but others we definitely can, and we can contribute in a workshop and look and help you, and you help us tell us your needs, because we don't really know your needs. But I'm very interested in economic development, always have been. It's very important to me. So congrats. I'm very glad to see this being done.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Commissioner McGirt.
Thank you, Mayor. Ditto, doing a great job. Love what you're doing here. With what Commissioner Martin said, theoretically, I would love for every single person on that board to be a current business owner in New Smyrna Beach. But my experience being on boards and trying to find people for boards, it's very difficult. So I don't know if that's very realistic. I'm not sure how far or how strong you meant for that, but I don't think that we can, I think preferred, or in some way it states if you're a current business owner in New Smyrna, that would be, and some sort of added benefit for consideration, maybe for the commission. But I don't want to get stuck in a situation where you have to be a resident and a business owner, because I can tell you right now, there's 3 people up here who are retired people who would be great on that board, being retired business people. So I wouldn't want to hamstring us to that criteria.
Thank you, Commissioner McGirt. Anyone else for the first try? I'll offer one. Director Bergeron, you have been the bright star and a spark plug for economic redevelopment in our city. I have the utmost confidence and faith in your abilities. We're in the policy business. You're in the execution business. You do what you need to do. I favor this resolution as written. And when you need to tweak it, you come back and talk to us. And when you get results or don't get results, as Commissioner Perrine has said, you need to tell us so that we can act and move quickly.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I just wanted to let you all know that you'll see those criteria in more depth in the bylaws. The reasoning that we didn't put it into the resolution, the bylaws are a little bit easier to change rather than to have them come back and do a complete new resolution. So that's where you'll see them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody for a second approach? Okay. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Madam City Attorney, we should vote separately?
Correct. 2 different resolutions.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve 2325 consideration of the sunset?
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes, thank you so much. That one carries. And now on Resolution 2425, which is to reinstate the Economic Development Advisory Board.
I'd make that motion for discussion or for
There's a
clarification.
motion. Is there a
Second for
second? And
discussion.
second, Madam
Okay.
Commissioner, go right ahead.
Well, it states on the agenda that the adoption would reinstate the prescribing bylaws, including qualifications, terms, and duties. My understanding is that that is a separate item, so that we should reinstate the advisory board, and then at a different time, we'd learn about the bylaws.
Correct.
So I would like to amend my motion to say, I would consider the adoption of a resolution which would reinstate the Economic Development Board, period.
There's an amended motion.
Second.
The second is still good. Any more discussion on that? Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner Perine,
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley,
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you for your report there, Samantha. Let us move on to public hearings. There's a public hearing will be conducted to consider an adoption of ordinance 4125, which is adopted, would amend the sign and sign definitions and required improvements. Madam City Attorney, if you read 4125 for the second time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 4125, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending the land development regulations, amending Article 2 definitions, Section 205 sign regulations definitions to add additional definitions. Amending Article 6 development, design, and improvement standards, Section 60412 signs to revise regulations related to pole signs, banners, feather signs, and electronic message centers, providing for codification, providing for public hearings, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Corbin, we're anxious to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Good evening, Commission and Mayor. Here tonight, we're going to talk about some proposed text amendments to the sign regulations. This has been a long time coming on some of these. How we got here was the pole sign amortization. In 2011, there was a major update to our sign regulations with extensive public participation. One of the things that came out of that was a 10-year amortization to remove all the pole signs in the city by November 29th, 2021. Due to COVID and some other things, the commission at the time decided to extend that to November 29th, 2025, which would be this year. A little bit more history. In November of 2021, there was a vintage sign program created that if signs met a certain design criteria, they would be exempt for this amortization schedule. In November of 2023, staff stopped issuing permits for non-vintage pole signs altogether. So we're just saying, those are outdated. We're not going to issue any more permits. We're also not going to issue permits to change out the faceplates. If you're an existing business and you're keeping your sign, you can have it, but we're not going to do any new ones. New signs will have to meet our new standards. In anticipation for the due date of November 29th of this year, we presented to you in May of this year to give you all a heads up, because we've been doing this long enough to know that if we start telling business owners you've got X number of days to take down your sign and get a new one, or we're going to start fining you, that your emails and phones would start blowing up. So we wanted to give you a heads up, and we had the discussion then, and we were given the direction to remove that provision from the code. Just give you an idea of how these are distributed. The red dots show where all the pole signs are. The bulk of them are on US Corridor 1, north of Canal Street, and in the 3rd Avenue, South Atlantic Corridor, there in the commercial area. That's where the bulk of them are. There are some others scattered around, but that's the majority of them. Very few of them on Flagler Avenue. So in the draft that you received, I hope you've had an opportunity to look at that, and we have struck the language about requiring the businesses to remove their pole signs by November 29th of 2025 of this year. You'll see that in the very first line. And we've clarified a little bit that if there's a change of use, if there's a change of tenant, a change of ownership, or if the business closed and is abandoned, that's what we mean by a discontinued sign, then if you hit any of those criteria, at that point in time, we'll require you to take the pole sign down. So that covered the pole sign issue. While we had this open, we wanted to look at some other issues that we had, and one of them was electronic message board signs, or LED signs. We've had requests specifically from churches, especially, that they want LED signs so that they can put out messages for the community because they have programs that regularly change. They've got different services, Sunday school, other things of that nature that they're not getting a profit. They're doing it as a public service. And so we were asked to come up with a way to perhaps accommodate those under special circumstances, and spoke with the city attorney, and we found out Daytona has a model for that. So we have drafted some language to create a public, semi-public use permit for electronic signs. Could possibly be used for some other things as well. But we haven't put all the work into that yet because we wanted to make sure this was going to go forward before we do. Assuming that this passes, then that will be coming to you pretty soon in the next few meetings. Public or semi-public use would be used by a government agency, a nonprofit entity, a utility, broadcaster, or similar entity that serves the needs of the public but requires special consideration of its location, design, and methods of operation before it can be deemed appropriate in zoning districts other than those in which it is expressly allowed as a permitted use or a special use. Similar to a special use, but a little bit different. And in the draft that I've been working on, there's approximately like 12 points that would be a criteria that this proposed public or semi-public use would have to meet. Would go to planning and zoning. That's currently the way it's drafted. Planning and zoning would consider it if it meets the criteria. Also, the staff would have a staff report with a recommendation, at which point in time planning and zoning would make a determination to issue that permit or not. So that's currently drafted. What else we did with LEDs is we clarified that they're not permitted in our historic districts. Further clarified that it cannot change more than once every 8 seconds, which is a standard that was developed on the federal level with drivers, making sure that they don't get distracted by flashing, blinking, or scrolling or moving signs. So that's the industry standard. So, clarified that it can't flash, scroll, or display animation. Gave it a maximum 8 square feet just for the electronic portion, even if the overall sign is bigger. But it's only permitted, these are only permitted on ground or monument signs. And we currently have language that says they have to be a minimum of 600 linear feet from one another, but it does not specify if that's diagonal across the road or the length of the same side of the street. So we inserted that it has to be on the same side of the street, just to add clarity. Also took the opportunity to tackle feather signs. This is something when I first got here, I thought I was going to tackle, and having conversations with one of our city attorneys, it was made clear that feather signs in their appearance look too much like flags. And so we didn't have clear distinction between these feather signs and flags. So what we've done is we've added a definition for a feather or a teardrop type sign, which is what you see here on the screen. also further clarified the definition of a flag, and we've added some provisions about how often you can put a feather flag out. If you start to look at this, you'll notice some businesses keep them out 365 days a year, while other businesses bring them out when they're trying to do a promotion or something like that. So we've proposed a total of 15 days in a calendar year in non-residential districts. So in commercial areas, if a business wants to go out and promote their business for a weekend or for 2 weeks straight, they can do that. They won't be hearing from code compliance, but beyond that, that's the stipulations that we're proposing to put on. And I won't read through the whole definition, but here's the definition for a feather teardrop sign or a feather flag. Again, different from a regular flag. Last, what we did is we either added or clarified 18 total definitions in there. And the purpose of that was really from a code compliance standpoint. You want to make sure you're really clear on what you're doing and things don't get confused. So we didn't intend to add all this, but as we worked on it and we got feedback from the attorney's office, we added additional definitions and clarified some more things. And these are two examples of some illustrations that we added with flag and teardrop flag, so there's absolutely no confusion on which one is which. And on July 7th, these went through the Planning and Zoning Board and received unanimous recommendation for approval, and staff also recommends approval.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for that. Very thorough. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Commissioner Martin.
Questions on the electronic boards. Certainly, regardless of what else is in there, not in R2. In other words, we are aware of institutions in R2 districts surrounded by houses on all four sides. Mm-hmm. And I really think it would be a problem if an electronic board could be placed in that R2 residential area. So I want to be really clear that regardless of what the institution is, they don't belong in residential zones.
So that would go into the criteria that would be looked at when the application would come in. And for instance, one of the criteria would be appropriate for its location, is compatible with the general character of surrounding lands, surrounding neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. The use is permitted in the applicable zoning district and does not inappropriately cluster or overburden a single area with a public or semi-public use.
I would like it clarified that it is not permitted in residential areas.
Okay.
I think that's really
he's giving
important.
his report. If you want to make amendments and changes to that, we can vote on that. But you've got that
okay.
one in there.
All right.
That's a good
So-
hold. We'll hold on that and make sure that we vote on that so we don't lose it.
Oh, okay.
I think some churches would probably be in residential areas.
Oh, yeah.
So, just,
Mm-hmm.
and the schools
Anybody
might
else?
be as well.
Yes. Commissioner McGurk.
Yeah, I got a few for you here. So, electronic signs. Electronic signs are simply the advancement of technology as opposed to a fixed sign or reader boards where you have to put up all the numbers and the letters that you want to communicate. I assume reader boards are okay within the sign. So that's good, but I'm going to say that I think that we're taking possibly too much of a hard stance on electronic signs. Blinking, flashing constantly, all that kind of stuff is not good. I think we can have electronic signs and we can manage electronic signs properly. Well, we got like 6 code enforcement officers. So I think we're going overboard on electronic signs. For some reason, it seems like they're inherently bad. And all that is just an advancement in technology. So to diminish those and bring them down and basically say, you know, legislate them so they almost have to be removed, I'm concerned about. Churches. Explain to me the pass that they get over a business.
The thought would be that they offer social programs for kids and seniors and the community in general, and those are constantly changing. And so they're trying to get their message out about the services that they're offering to people, and that it's not exactly convenient for them to go out and change out the letters to a reader board every day in order to convey those messages.
So I'm big on what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think everybody should be held to electronic sign requirements. I'm not so sure churches should get a pass. I don't think government should get a pass unless it is something that is in the public welfare. We won't be as strict on government, but I think that we need to be careful how we say it's okay and great and good for this group of organizations, but for this group of organizations, it's not. I think, I'm not sure that is what there's a lot of, I think, unnecessary paranoia in that. I don't think that creates blight. I think electronic signs should be allowed, and I think for the most part, everybody should be held to the same standard. I'm for everybody having the same rule for an electronic sign, except for government, and only in specific situations when they're getting very pertinent, important information out to the people. You know, we have signs we wheel out on the back of a truck, and we'll put it up to notify beaches closed or beaches some. And I get that that's great. Hurricane information, any kind of natural disaster information, that's great. But we used to, I don't know if we still do it, but we used to line the North Causeway up with all kinds of going-ons, all the wine walks and all the different things going on in town, yet we would never let anyone else do that. So I would like to see something a little more consistent. Tell me about the 600 linear feet on the same side of a road.
We already have that 600 feet in the code. It's just not clarified if you can go diagonal across the road.
Right.
Or jump the street and then go 600 feet, or...
So is this for the same property or any other
property? It would
property?
be any other sign, whether it be the same property or another property.
So let me put this in the context that I think everybody can understand. If Blackbeard's has an electronic sign, Dairy Queen cannot have an electronic sign.
If it's within
So think
600
about
feet.
that distance. Oh, yeah.
But that's currently in the code. It's just not clarified on...
Well, what I'm saying is, if Blackbeard's decided to get electronic sign, you're telling me that Dairy Queen could not get, and you understand the distance between the two businesses. Is that what
I
I'm
haven't
hearing?
measured it, but if it's within 600
Oh, it's well
feet,
within 600 feet.
That's correct.
So you got Dairy Queen, you got a rental car property, and then you have a sushi place, and then you have Blackbeard's. And basically only in that entire block, only one business gets to have an electronic sign under the way it's currently written, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Because I guess I better run out and get one before someone else does. So that's a concern. And I think that we're over-regulating electronic signs. That's the point I'm making on this.
If I could just give you a little context. From an enforcement standpoint, the problem that we find with electronic signs is the business owners feel like you're harassing them when you get after them because they put out an American flag waving with an eagle coming through and then fireworks going off, and then you go and you say, hey, you can't do that. And they're like, what are you talking about? I just spent 20 grand on this sign, and you're telling me I can't do all of the functions that it can do. And then they complain that they've got code breathing down their neck, and they're picking on them and things like that. So then you get them into compliance. Let's say it's a bank, or let's say it's a gas station. You get them into compliance and things are going good, and then you get a new manager that comes in. And the new manager is like, oh, I've got this cool sign out here. Let me see what all I can do with it. And they start doing it, and then the cycle starts over. So that's really the only problem I have with electronic signs. They don't otherwise bother me, but what you don't want to have is a situation where you're going down US 1 and you've got 40 or 50 electronic signs all flashing and blinking and doing all kinds of stuff, and it's gotten out of control. So that's just the other sort of thing to
I
think
understand
about.
what you're saying, but what that really means is some get it, some don't, and I kind of goes back to what I'm saying is you may be over-regulating electronic signs, and if you want to regulate them to a certain point, you create laws and rules, and then you have to enforce them. So all I'm saying, I'm pointing out to you that this makes no sense, because I can tell you that a block, now, I guess, so let me take this one step further for your point. How many complaints does code enforcement get, not on just electronic signs in general? In other words, how many people in the community have said, nope, we absolutely don't want them? And if the community does not want them, then we should, as go back to what I initially said, then nobody gets them. But what we're putting into effect right now, or have in effect, and what we're also continuing with, is something that it's not consistent, it's not fair. 600 feet. Listen, US 1, yes, there's 4 businesses within that block that I'm talking about: Blackbeard's, Osaka, Budget Rent-A-Car, and Dairy Queen. That's because an arterial road was originally built on lots created for residential use. So it's not like out 44 where now we can use current zoning for bigger lots require an acre, acre and a quarter, or 2 acres. So we just have to live with that, and that is what it is. But I just see a lot of problems in this. Either no one gets an electronic sign, or I better be the first guy to get the electronic sign on the block because I know the rules. Sure. And then everybody else doesn't get one. So I'm not so sure your complaints or the fairness or someone's picking on me, you're just changing it out. So because you're gonna have 3 other property owners wondering why I get electronic sign and they don't because I beat them to the punch. So that's where I'm getting with this thing. And I think we're getting maybe a little too strict with electronic signs to begin with. I think the issue really is brightness and blinking and flashing. So I think those are the things we should focus on controlling as opposed to limiting people from getting them. But if we can't get them, I'm not for churches I'm not for government having them other than for some sort of emergency type notifications. That helps the entire community as a whole.
Thank you for your comments,
Sure.
sir. Commissioner,
If I could.
you want to respond?
Yeah.
If you'd like.
Sure. Well, again, a lot of that language is already existing, so we didn't come up with any new language there. What we're proposing is to perhaps relax some of the standards and create this public or semi-public use permit. Right now, electronic signs, you can get them all the way up and down US 1 if you're fronting US 1, as well as State Road 44, but you can't get them east of US 1. So a decision was made many years ago that to protect the historic district, Flagler Avenue and Beachside, to not allow electronic signs in these areas. But the bulk of US 1 and 44, you can get them with the exception of the 600 feet rule. As far as
600 feet is a long distance for a road like US 1. You got that in, it's pretty big.
Sure. Well, I think that's something that you guys can debate if you want to eliminate that or make it smaller. We don't have a dog in the fight here. We'll craft the language however you want.
Well, that's my point. We do have a dog in the fight because it's 600 feet. Well, my point is this: you keep creating regulations, and I'm saying, and not saying you may have some proposals in here that relax some of them. But I thought the whole point was looking at it as a whole and seeing what needs to be tinkered with and fixed. And 600 feet, basically one person on that entire block with 4 different businesses gets an electronic sign. That's what I'm identifying as the problem.
Your point is made, sir. Commissioner Perine.
So I have heard from businesses that when they moved to the city that they were surprised that we didn't want pole signs and we also didn't want electronic signs. So I think it's a nice gesture that we give businesses that option, since we don't like the pole signs, that they can go electronic. As of churches, I wouldn't say for all R2, because there's some R2 areas that churches are, and there's hardly any neighbors anywhere around there. So I think you guys are going to have to come up with something based on what you have in your verbiage on proximity and annoyances and that type of thing, because I think that I know I can think in my head a couple of churches that there aren't any, they're in R2, but there's not a house around them. So I'm sure you'll be able to come up with that. I like that you're going forward with that, because we do need to help promote businesses, and I do think that we are over-regulation on businesses.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Commissioner Martin.
First of all, until anybody is willing to have a electronic sign blinking across the street from their house, I would strongly suggest, because in my neighborhood, that's what would happen. And I don't think it's fair to the residents. I mean, we have one church in my area is surrounded on 4 sides by houses. There's no way you could put a blinking monument sign there that's not going to be flashing into somebody's living room. So I think that there has to be some kind of consideration for the people that live there. The other one is, I understand what you're saying about the 600 feet. I would personally not like to see blinking monument signs on Flagler. I really don't think they belong there. I think we're selling a specific, it's hard to call it a quaint town if we have blinking monument signs, and we don't really have good space to put them on that narrow little street. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. There's a thing about feather 15 days in non-residential areas. Well, what about residential areas? For example, I'm a realtor. I'm putting up a flag on a house. Does that get to stay forever?
Not the way it's currently written. We've written it to allow it in commercial districts, but not in residential.
Well, that's why I'm just asking. So if I decide to put up a feather sign in front of my house, for whatever reason, that would not be allowed.
That's correct.
Okay. And could I get a definition, please, of a snipe sign?
They're the signs, like you'll see, they'll go and like staple them up on those light poles, and it'll be like, house for sale, I'll buy your house, $40,000, or...
Oh, you mean all those little signs that get poked in the ground around everywhere?
Or, no, have you seen a utility pole where that type of stuff, where it's temporary and they throw it up and it's hard to get at them?
The only other thing is I know the Little Theater has a hand change marquee, and they have requested but have been turned down in the past to be able to make the marquee, which faces 3rd Avenue, be able to have an electronic lettering, and they were turned down. So I think exceptions, to me, it's logical for the marquee above the Little Theater to be able to do electronic changes to what plays are coming up or what they're doing that night. So that's another thought. And bottom line is that I think government should be able to have the monument. I don't like those little electric things that are functionally stay in some places for years. If we had an attractive monument sign that we could change to give the appropriate information, we could make it look a lot nicer than the ones that we truck in. So those are my thoughts, and don't you put a blinking sign on my street.
I'm not going to put a sign anywhere. Just to clarify, again, the way the code currently reads, east of US 1, if you're not a property facing US 1, whether it's this historic district or Flagler Avenue or all of Beachside, so it doesn't matter if you're the Marquee at the Little Theater or if you're Flagler Tavern or if you're this government building, all of them are prohibited from having electronic signs because they're east of US 1 and not facing US 1. So that decision was made years ago. We didn't propose to tinker with that. Other thing that I mentioned about the public or semi-public use, the only uses that are typically interwoven into residential neighborhoods are typically schools and churches. Those are commonly allowed uses in residential neighborhoods.
I'm telling you, you put one on South Pine, and you're not just going to be me you have to contend with. And the likelihood of that happening, remember, they already have an unpermitted oversized sign there on their building.
This
So
has
I
nothing
just-
to do with that facility.
Okay, let us not make threats. Anybody else? All right, I've got a couple. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the work that you and Mr. Cowper have worked together on to try and get here. What is the zoning where the Babe James Center is? Is that R2?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's likely R2.
That's what I'm thinking is, and we've got a sign there, right?
We do.
All right. There are churches around there.
There
that,
is.
that have signs or would like to have an electronic sign, and it's in the neighborhood and it faces homes.
That's correct.
Got it. So, listening to my colleague to the left here, good for the goose, good for the gander. If we're allowing the city to run a beautiful Babe James sign, which is informative, we probably ought to allow those churches over there in that neighborhood. Absent objections from their residents. I'm pretty sure they're united in that effort over there and would like to be able to use their signs. Shane, what work have you done with Samantha Bergeron in polling the business community or get her thoughts on how we could co-opt this rather than just dictate it? Have we done anything in that regard?
So far we have not, no. But before we would do any sort of enforcement, we would actually reach out to the chamber as well as the other business groups. And if, for instance, we had businesses that had the feather signs out, we would give them a letter letting them know before we would issue any sort of citation on them.
Sure, but yeah, okay, that's very reasonable, and a comm plan is something that I think is important, whether we're talking about parking or beach access or signage or anything like that. What is the most effective communication plan? The timing on what you're going to do, we would pass this and then you would tell them we're not going to enforce it very quickly, we'll take our time. I prefer to go the other way and put them to task. You got some experts in FABA, you got some experts on Canal Avenue business owners, you've got experts all over town that might be able to come in and say, can we do something that doesn't crush a business and allows for us to advertise effectively? I don't want to junk up the town. Mr. Cowper's been on systematic evaluation of what the town looks like materially and is trying to get it cleaned up, spiffied up. I favor that. The meter is, what are we going to do about these businesses who want to try to advertise, and how we're going to not have them pay money to tear down their whatever the post signs. And you've done a nice job by saying, hey, when it fatigues, when it gets blown away by a storm, you will rebuild it as a monument sign. Love that. I am I'm concerned for the businesses that are packed in on a street, such as US 1, such as Canal, such as Flagler, such as 44, in close, and not allowing anybody that wants to have a sign of their choosing with the technology of the day. And as I understand it, those signs are not cheap. They're very expensive by comparison to the signs of the past. $30,000, $50,000 investment. Our churches can't do that. If they do, turning them off and not letting them use them doesn't feel right. for me. So I would prefer, rather than saying, yes, we're going to go forward and we're going to give you lenience, for us to go the other way and get your economic development coordinator, who is superbly skilled at socializing information, getting the best and obtaining the best ideas, rather than coming from a dictatorial standpoint and a legislative standpoint. Get some folks together to help us help make the town look like what it is we want to look like. That's where I am. And so, if asked to vote now, I would probably not vote in favor of what we have ready to go.
And
Sir.
just to be clear, the repercussions of that will be that we will have to proceed forward with the removal of the pole signs. We are slated to remove pole signs in November, and so we've been proceeding forward based on your direction that you didn't want that to happen. If we don't approve the changes.
As written, or can we modify them?
You can change whatever you want. If you want to change the 600-foot rule, have at it, but that's fine.
I'm not sure we want to be in the business of writing the rule book. We just gave you pushback on things we didn't like. So for you to say, you're either going to take this or we're going to tear down all the poles.
No, that's not what I said.
All right.
You said you're not prepared to vote for it, and I was just telling you that if we don't do something, we will be in a position of having to remove the pole signs.
Anybody else for a reattack? Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could simply make a motion to not enforce or to remove the pole signs and leave everything else for further discussion.
Will that pass the smell check?
I'm checking the title.
All right. Commissioner McGirt?
Yeah, look, to add to that is we can give a date we can extend the date of when the pole signs need to come down. We've done that a number of times. The complexity, so Shane, not trying to give you a hard time. Everything the mayor said was accurate. You know, you guys do a great job, and we're trying to muscle through this. There's a few bad apples out there that really mess it up for everybody regarding these pole signs, and it's a shame. The pole signs, I think we can address. But I think what this shows is the problems in our sign code. And they're not going to get, the general public, even though you've done a ton of work and we've done a ton of work, we're trying to identify, we're still going to keep getting the same kind of complaints with some of the examples that I gave you tonight. And to make it even worse, New Smyrna is an arts community. We love the uniqueness. You know, one of the reasons we didn't have design guidelines for so long is because the architects used to come in and say, you take away artistic creativity. And while I didn't plan to have Blackbeards as an example tonight, when we create, everybody has to go to a monument sign. We went to a very generic, plastic, everything looks the same. Now, if you drive down US 1 and you take a look at Blackbeard's sign, they got a really neat sign. And there's been some really neat signs all around town. The impossibility of your job is, because I don't like just the idea of monument signs, everything looks plastic and generic. There's no creativity in it. But how do you not throw the baby out with the bathwater by giving and allowing creativity? And I think that's really the difficult part of this. And I think the easy part is everybody goes to a monument sign. Everybody has to be the same size. And I'm okay with that if we end up having to do that. But what I don't want is inconsistencies where some get and others don't get. So anyway, I'll back off this right now, but I think the easiest thing we can do is we can simply extend the poll deadline, which is what, November of this year? We can always extend it 6 months or a year, but Carrie, what do you think?
Madam Attorney, help us.
Can I parse this out? Is there any discomfort in the definitions? The other idea is simply to come back, separate these, break them down, have an electronic message center ordinance, have the pole sign ordinance. So that's why I was trying to figure out, like, what are we comfortable and what are we not? Because if it's just like a certain little provision, we could potentially strike it and move the rest of this forward. But I've heard a few different things we're not comfortable with.
Okay, well, she's asked a good question. The question is, would you like to parse this or simply say no and start over? We're trying to get to someplace. I don't mean to be cranky with the city manager, but I want to do something in the vein where you're pushing the city. I like that idea. But I don't want to, as McGurk said, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so my fear is that all of these collectively may do that. And if we haven't gotten any input from anybody but our own bright thinking inside City Hall, we've eliminated the business people and the residents. She's got a great point. There are residents who probably have an opinion about what they want and where they want it. So I don't think it's simple. And I'm reluctant to just go yes. So that's it.
Could I maybe add a little bit more context?
Sure.
I mean, really, the only new restriction in here is on feather signs, and the restriction on how many you can have and where they can be. We have those similar regulations on yard signs and snipe signs and things of that nature. As far as the electronic signs, it's actually creating an avenue for churches and schools and government buildings to have the opportunity to have them where they don't now. So really the only real restriction in my mind is on the feather signs. And we have those restrictions on, those types of restrictions on all types of other signs.
Do we have a pre-existing restriction that says you can't have any sign closer than 600 feet? Is that a pre-existing? Is that in there today?
That's specific to, that one is unique and specific to electronic message boards.
And it's in there today?
It is.
I don't want to overlook the fact that if it's wrong today, we should just ignore it and keep going. I like to make, I think it'd be wise if the entire thing read properly so that we don't nickel and dime and piece by piece figure out what we don't like. And so that if there's something in there today that is objected to, that your new proposal says, well, we're not changing that. We still don't, we may not like it, but we're not going to change it. That doesn't hunt for me. So I think that's what, if the pre-existing stuff says you can't have a sign, electronic sign, but for every 600 feet, that's in there today, and you're not changing that. Your proposal is, anyway, not to change that.
It's just clarifying how you measure the 600 feet, whether it's across the street or on the same side.
So the issue is how deep do we dive into it? I think we can. I stop short of saying we need to. We've talked about this a long time. We need to get something done on pole signs today. I don't think we can fix. I think there's a number of things in here regarding electronic signs, churches, and any governments and all that kind of stuff. I think we need to move forward at least on the pole sign part. I don't want to pull out everything I'm spotting right now, but I think that we need to have a mechanism in there. It's only a matter of time before this is where we hear from the people. They're mad, they're upset, and all we're doing is spotting things and saying, well, this is going to be a problem. Your job is to create the legislation, but we also need to communicate in that. So the whole sign criteria, our policies and statutes on signs, it still needs work. And I don't want to not give the manager what he needs to move forward with. He had a good idea. I agree with that. But I think we need to come back to signs at some point. And I like what the mayor's talking about. We need to get out there and talk maybe to some of the business community, because sometimes I think we think that there's a big problem with something, and there's not really a big problem with something. Pole signs in general, you can argue they don't need to go. It's the bad pole signs that have made everyone look at and say, oh, the pole signs, they're terrible, they need to go. You know, so
I was very surprised when I got here to find that provision to have them all removed. I'd never seen that anywhere before. So it kind of surprised me.
Port Orange did it. A few other places around here have done
Yeah.
it. So we kind of followed suit, which again, so it's an interesting dichotomy between staff, electeds, what we hear from people, what you guys hear in the planning world. You go to there's conferences and what's the newest, latest, greatest. So the challenging part is for us to come together and communicate, which is frustrating. It's long, it's cumbersome, but it's necessary. So I want to move forward with the recommendation for the pole signs. I'm okay with moving. Just as Shane said, this does not make anything tougher. It makes things easier. However, so I don't think we lose a whole lot by approving this tonight. But I think that we need to look at electronic signs with churches and residential neighborhoods. And I think we should look at the whole electronic sign. I mean, I'm for electronic signs and much more than some people may be. But for example, in Lisa's neighborhood, that would be a very out of place, small residential neighborhood for a church to put up a big electronic sign.
Commissioner Martin.
As I'm reading the commission, we are all in favor of discontinuing the restrictions on the pole signs or giving them a date certain to have that taken down. The pole signs, to me, were united, but all the rest, I think we believe, needs a little more discussion and a little more thought, and maybe this isn't the time or place to be dealing with all the subtleties in the sign regulations. So I would still like to make a motion that we do whatever is necessary to get the onus off the pole signs and to bring back the rest of the sign recommendations at a later date.
So, Madam City Attorney, we've got an ordinance proposed on the docket here. And we can vote on that as written.
You can continue it, you can vote on it, we can decline it and come back with ones that's simply focused on pole signs. Those are 3 options available.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Is there a motion to do any of those 3?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, make a motion to bring it back as 2 separate items?
We'll decline today.
Well, no.
And decline today's and bring it back as 2 separate items.
Yes.
One being the pole sign
Yes.
prohibition and the other being the rest of the sign definitions.
Yes.
But I don't think we should be trying to parse it out now.
No.
Mr. Manager, what is the path that would be most helpful for you? And you hear the sentiment of what we've got. What helps?
Yeah, well, I think, the urgency is to deal with the pole signs. So conferring with the city attorney, I think we can go back and rewrite the ordinance to deal with the pole signs, bring that back in September on first reading, bring it back on second reading at the second meeting in September. And that would give us time so that we're not running up on the November deadline.
Very good. So then I would entertain a motion to continue it to the first or second meeting in September.
So what we would do, this one, we can either withdraw or have you all vote it down, and then we'll be returning with a new ordinance specific to pole signs. And then you could, depending on how much input you want, you could hold workshops on electric, all the rest of it.
Which one do you want? Do you want us to have you pull it?
I'd
or
rather,
do you
why
want-
don't you vote it down,
Okay,
and then
very
we'll
good.
just come forward with a new one.
Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 4125?
I so move.
There's a motion, a second. Madam City Clerk, please call a roll.
Commissioner McGurk?
No.
Commissioner Ashley?
No.
Vice Mayor Martin?
No.
Commissioner Perine?
No.
Mayor Cleveland?
No. Sean, thank you. Shane, thank you for all the work. We know that it is tedious and difficult, and we're not trying to make it more difficult.
Nope, no problem, thanks.
All right.
Do we make a motion to bring back amendments?
Oh, yeah, we did not call for public comment.
Sure. My error. We will negate the vote and open it to public participation. Is there a member of the public that would like to speak on the topic? You'll have 3 minutes. Ms. Sneziak, welcome.
You know where I live. Everybody's getting cranky at this point, but honestly, staff is getting churned here. So the whole pole sign thing, Commissioner McGurk, you were part of that vote 3+ years ago to sunset everything. And then there was a big brouhaha about, well, was communication done, was whatever. So, and there was a first reading on this. So I don't know if it's a process thing, but there's something very uncomfortable and it feels wrong to get to tonight and have all of this consternation and concern that either didn't come up at a briefing, or maybe folks didn't have a chance to read it until today, or you had nothing to read for first hearing. But this is a big waste of time. This is much a waste of your time. It is my time sitting here listening to this painful circular conversation and personal concerns about, well, if I get to my sign first, then I get it, but everybody else is sort of, out of luck, ha. This doesn't even make sense. You are not worthy of this. You are better people than this. So we either need a process around first hearing and surfacing concerns, or the commission needs to give better direction to the staff. So when you told them it was okay to go ahead and follow Mr. Cowper's lead about making some other changes, which were described as minor, but apparently tonight you don't see them as minor. There's got to be a better way than to jerk people around the way I see them being jerked tonight. And it's getting late and you're running out of time for the meeting, but honestly, this has been painful. It was painful last week to hear about flying buses and all kinds of other stuff. It was painful to see you roll back a vote tonight also. So please, we've got to do better on second hearings and get serious about, there's plenty of time to do a workshop in September if that's what you really want. But just keep the citizens in mind. It's not just businesses with the signs. I live in the same neighborhood as Lisa, and there's a non-compliant sign blasted 30 feet high on the side of a building, not permitted. So, stuff can happen. So if it's good for the city and it's not good for your businesses or churches, okay, then it's good for the city. But it's not an all or nothing deal here. This is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Looking forward to seeing you running for office. All right. Anybody else for public participation? No. Public participation is now closed. All right. Madam City Clerk, call the roll.
Did you want to make a motion? You withdrew the motion to open public hearing, so you need to have a motion maker.
You need a new motion.
I'll make
Original motion. Read her original motion, or Jason's.
No, Lisa made it, I seconded it. It was simply to approve the item. Make a motion to approve the item.
Very good. Motion was to adopt 4125. We had a second.
Oh, yeah.
You seconded?
Oh, I said it first, and I know, okay, Jason said it second, and we all said no. Are we repeating?
Yes, we are. We're going to vote.
Okay, I make a motion to
No, I made the
approve.
motion, just second
Oh,
it.
you did. I'll second that motion.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGurk.
No.
Commissioner Ashley.
No.
Vice Mayor Martin.
No.
Commissioner Perine.
No.
Mayor Cleveland.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to having it brought back. Ordinance number 4325 is, will conduct a second reading, which if adopted, will grant a non-exclusive franchise agreement to VPL Logistics. Do a public hearing. Madam City Attorney, please read the ordinance 4325 for the second time by title only, please.
Ordinance number 4325, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach granting a non-exclusive franchise to VPL Logistics LLC to provide construction and demolition debris removal services within the City of New Smyrna Beach, outlining franchisees' duties, providing terms and conditions under which such franchise shall operate, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Director Ray, we're anxious for your report, sir.
Good evening. This is a standard franchise agreement that we use for those residents or companies that are looking to get rid of any kind of C&D material and the roll-off containers. But I'm here for answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Director Ray? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your report, David. Public hearing is now open. Is there any citizen who wishes to speak on this topic? Please come forward. You'll be heard. Seeing none, public participation is closed. There a motion to adopt 4325?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, ma'am. Motion carries. On to ordinance 4425, which is a public hearing to conduct the adoption, which would repeal an ordinance 0725 and adopt a new ordinance for a revised boating restricted area 500 feet next to a sewage pump out station near Yacht Club Island. So we'll start a public hearing for this adoption. It's 4425. Madam City Attorney, would you read 4425 for the second time, please?
Ordinance number 4425, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach repealing and replacing ordinance number 0725, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 90, Waterways, Section 90-155, establishment of special slow speed minimum wake zones and special idle speed no wake zones on Indian River North to establish an idle speed no wake boating restricted area within 500 feet of a pump out station near Yacht Club Island, providing for codification, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Mr. Cowper, anxious for your report, sir.
Previously, we adopted a no-wake zone. Since that time, additional equipment has been put in, changing the legal description for the zone. It expands the boating restricted area, and that is what is before you tonight, that expanded area.
Thank you. You don't look like Kevin. All right. Public hearing is now open. Are there any citizens who would like to discuss this topic? Please approach the podium and you'll be heard. Seeing none, public participation is now closed. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 4425?
So moved.
A motion
Second.
and a second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Perine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, motion carries for ordinance 4425. One more for the solid waste contract. Madam City Attorney, if you'll read 5325, which is a motion which, if adopted, would revise charges for household and commercial waste.
Ordinance number 5325, an ordinance of the City of New Smyrna Beach amending ordinance number 4924 to revise user charges for the collection of garbage and household trash, yard trash, and household receptacles, providing for public hearing, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
And this is the first reading, right?
Correct.
Correct, first reading of that. So we'll hear that again and have a robust discussion about that. Okay, on to boards and commissions. Madam City Clerk, your report, please, about the Historic Preservation Board, looking to appoint 2 citizens to fill 2 unfilled vacancies to expire on 14 May 2026 and 14 May 2027, and reappoint 1 citizen to serve with terms expiring 14 May 2028.
So the Historic Preservation Board advises on matters related to the historic preservation and coordinates city's preservation efforts with federal, state, and county governments, as well as other city departments. Whenever possible, board members shall be professionals in fields such as architecture, history, architectural history, or other history-related disciplines, including urban planning, American studies, American civilization, cultural geography, and cultural geography. Laypersons with special interests, experience, or any knowledge in these fields may comprise of the membership. So residency requirements, members must reside within the city with an exception that no more than 3 members may reside within the ISBA annexation area defined within the ISBA. This board meets quarterly, and their next scheduled meeting is on Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. The candidates' applications were presented to you all through email, and we are looking to appoint 2 members, and we do have 1 member who is up for reappointment.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. So we're going to vote tonight, and we'll take nominations from the floor to fill the 2 unfilled vacancies. And if you'd like to have it in the same motion, to reappoint the 1 citizen. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Diane Bean.
1.
I'd like to nominate Janet Caswell.
Okay, 2 nominations.
I'd like to nominate Katie Kaufman for reappointment.
And Katie Kaufman to reappoint. Any others?
Diane Bean.
Yep.
Yeah, got it.
There. Okay, we've got 2 nominations for 2 slots and 1 reappointment. And,
Well, I don't think we need it.
yeah, Madam Clerk, how would you like to do that? Do you want ballot, or you do roll call?
Well, we actually have 2 appointment positions open and 1 reappointment.
Yes,
So
that was in,
that's what we're looking to fulfill.
okay, I understand that. How would you like it voted on? Do you
Oh, we
want a
can make
roll-
a motion. You can make a
We've got-
motion for
we've got a
those 2,
motion.
and then the 1 reappointment.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve Diane Bean, Janet Caswell, and Katie
Kaufman.
Kaufman.
For reappointment.
Katie Kaufman will be a reappointment, and Diane Bean and Janet Caswell would be 2 new additions. Make that motion.
I'll second it.
And there's a second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I didn't think we would just be doing those 3. I thought we'd have a ballot or rounds and do.
But there's no more to vote for. There's 2 holes and two candidates.
No, I understand, but there are other candidates.
That
That's
didn't
all.
get nominated.
Okay, so, all right. Got it?
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Perrine?
Yes.
Commissioner McGurk?
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Cleveland?
Yes, thank you, and congratulations for those of you stepping up to serve. We appreciate you contributions to the city coming forward, and for Katie Kaufman for being reappointed. City Clerk will be in touch with formal paperwork to follow. Thank you very much. Anything more, Madam Clerk?
We just have 1 board vacancy notice for the Building Trades Examining Board. That'll be presented to you in a couple of months.
And this is an advertisement, so
This
if you
is an
want to be on the,
advertisement.
what is it, the
Building Trades Examining Board.
Please reach out to the city clerk. Okay, very good. On to commissioner reports. Commissioner Martin, Vice Mayor.
Well, as we all know, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but I think we've all had enough fun for one day, and I just, reiterating that I would find it extremely difficult to approve raises for senior and executive staff until I know that all staff is appropriately compensated. The other, and as an addendum to that, I notice we're proposing, contractually proposing a cost increase for waste removal based on a CPI of 5.39. And I understand we're doing that contractually. I have no objections. But clearly, we need to make sure that that minimum is reflected among our staff. That's it.
Commissioner McGurk.
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to say that I enjoyed the League of Cities conference. I'm glad we all made it. It was a good time. There were some interesting seminars. The e-bike one, I know the manager mentioned it. I was actually looking forward to see what a lot of communities may be doing to regulate them on sidewalks and preventing injuries. It was a little light on that. The other one on the Doge I found very fascinating because after the speaker went very long, He did not answer the questions either directly or indirectly. It was very fascinating. I got the opinion they didn't quite know what they were doing and know how to answer the questions. And he ended it. He ended his speech or his speaking time just about the time the meeting needed to end. So I found that to be a heck of a coincidence. But with that, that's it, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Perrine.
Thank you. I have some more things to add about the boards. I've had a lot of discussion with staff and with this HPC, I would like these new appointments to get off on the right foot. But it was brought to my attention over the last week and a half that there's been concerns with this board's comments and actions. Under Section 50-8 Code of Ordinance, review of new construction from the HPC, it shall be limited to the exterior visible to the public. And what has been happened, we got sent some clips, and some of the people on this board was actually making comments about the future construction of a back window at the back of the house, which has nothing to do with HPC nor a driveway. And if you think about this, I'm going to give you an example on my street. It was Murray Street, and the house needed to be demolished. It was painful for them because they bought a historic home to renovate, but when they got into it, it was a mess. It had termites, and it was badly damaged, and it needed torn down. So they take their new plans to the HPC, and they're already, sad because they have to tear this house down. And then they get the HPC board telling them that they need a window in the back. That's out of their purview. Now this person goes back home and thinks, do I have to have the engineer redesign this and pay for this window and do all that? We had a workshop not too long ago while I've been on this board stating that our materials on the front are not going to be more of a hardship for historic homeowners than what we already have on the building codes because of insurance. If you start making recommendations of stricter materials from this HPC board, then our insurance carriers will either be higher, dropped, or at more of a hardship than we already have. SB 180 got put into place because of hardships from hurricanes. Our historic homeowners have hardships with insurance. Just 2 weeks ago, I had to have a complete inspection on my home because I was in a historic home. I'd like to see our board qualifications and objectives at least include people need to live in the historic district so they understand what's going on in the historic district. What are the impacts going on with our historic homeowners? We can't continue to afford these insurance rates just because somebody wants a charming looking city. That doesn't work, not in these old homes when our insurance rates are outrageous. So because of these purviews, I went to city manager and city attorney and our city clerk. I said, we've got to have training. I can't fault all this, but this board has done like the certificates of appropriateness, wrong, in error in the past. Surveys have gone out, wrong. Our community, 90%, does not want a local overlay. So stop pushing it. We need to change Chapter 50. We need to look at the charter, making it voluntarily. We don't need people from that board dictating homeowners things that will cause their insurance rates to be dropped or a new carrier. So we've got to be cautious here. Now's a good time. We've got new people going on the board. We've got to observe a nice balance in this city, not be heavy loaded on construction side, engineers. We need to be mindful that some of these are historic homeowners that will feel the impact of the decisions made by this board, and it doesn't need to be kicked down the road for 3 months until they meet again. So it's serious stuff. This city doesn't need lawsuits just because somebody wants a charming looking city.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your comments. Commissioner Ashley?
Yes, I attended the League of Cities conference with everybody here, and I found it very valuable being the first-time commissioner. Lots of knowledge, lots of different points of view, met a lot of people from other cities. And from that conference, I am going to take another 2-day, very heavy specific conference this October to further my learning experience about the cities of Florida, Florida government, both state and local. I think we need a lot of work on the signs. Not one rule does not fit all. I agree with Jason's point about Dixie Highway being different than Canal. We can't have the same linear feet requirement in different neighborhoods. I also think that being the art-oriented, creative city that we are, we really should figure out a way to apply that to our signs. I think that's another avenue that we should approach that would benefit our city in a positive way and further reinforce the way people look at us, you know, elevated art, intellectual, appealing. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Want to thank Senator Wright and the legislature that pushed through what you saw tonight was state tax money coming back to New Smyrna. It wasn't a grant of special money. It was our money we pay into the state coming back to New Smyrna, and he has a record and a history of returning that money here to New Smyrna. This particular grant will be a big benefit to the West Side flooding challenge. I congratulate Chief Kirk and the morale and well-being of the police department. We've just recently sworn in an officer who left our department to family matters in upstate New York. And where did he want to come back to? And we've sworn him back in right here in New Smyrna. So thank you for your leadership and continued high morale there. The fire department didn't hear anything about that tonight, and that was a hot topic, excuse the pun, last time we met. Please know that the negotiations are ongoing. The pay study is in hand, not complete, and so the staff is working on making it complete. The negotiations will be ongoing, and we will do the right thing by the fire department. I too attended the Florida League of Cities, and we had, for those of you who don't know, a 4-day conference held annually. Very good speakers, very good interaction. Not the least of which was a session on the relationship with the city manager and the Diaz. And we learned a variety of things there, not the least of which was we're in the policy business. City manager is the chief executive of the city. He's running the city. All those processes and procedures and protocols are run by the city manager. Second thing we learned was it's not our job to play stump the chump with the city staff up here. Not our job to tell the city manager which street needs to be fixed, which road, what order, or tell any of the department heads. We are policy and oversight. Mr. Cowper runs that. The other thing we learned was that how we conduct ourselves up here with the civility that you watch every night, every time we meet, even though we disagree, is a very important factor. Cities that do not have that have trouble attracting top-level talent to come to their city. They have trouble attracting businesses to come to their city because they see chaos on the Diaz, so they run away. How we do that here is very, very important. And finally, congratulations to Commissioner Martin and the Vice Mayor and Commissioner Perrine for the coursework that they did and earning certificates of honor and merit in how to be better public servants. So my congrats to them. Madam City Clerk, anything further from you, ma'am?
No, no more.
Madam City Attorney.
Just three quick things, and two of them I'm going to ask that we talk about next meeting. But one, we heard about the Senate Bill 180 litigation at Florida League of Cities. Next meeting, that resolution will be back in front of you. So plan on having a deep discussion on that. Also, prior to the summer break, I had brought options for whether or not we want to regulate signs in the chambers. I think that's going to need a deeper discussion than we have time for tonight, so also be thinking about that one. And then lastly, Commissioner Martin, Vice Mayor Martin had reminded me during the city that at that DOJ seminar, we heard about DOJ is looking for that DEI language. And so not trying to beat a dead horse, but just in case that information changes your stance on looking at the preamble. I wanted to mention that to you all.
Good. Mr. Manager.
Nothing else, sir. Thank you.
Really? Okay. Very good. Nothing further. We're adjourned at 10:12.
The smartest guy in the room.
He really is.